Um, Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the open session to hear public comment before closed session. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bates.
Present.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Present.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Present.
You've got an echo, Pam. I don't know.
Hold on 1 second. I have to close myself in the door. Okay, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Martinez.
Here, it must be your fan club.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
just, yeah, I'm here.
Councilmember Willis
Here.
and Mayor Butt.
I'm here. Do you have any public speakers?
We do have public speakers, and let me read the items into the record. The council will discuss the following items: existing litigation, Michael Davis versus City of Richmond et al., Sprawdiff et al. Versus City of Richmond, North Coast Rivers Alliance et al., and Point Melody Alliance et al. Versus City of Richmond. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. There are 3 cases. And then in conference with labor negotiators, agency representative is Neil Camello. Employee organizations include SEIU Local 1021 full-time unit, SEIU Local 1021 part-time unit, IFPTE Local 21 mid-level management unit, IFPTE Local 21 executive management unit, Richmond Police Officers Association, RPOA, Richmond Police Management Association, RPMA, IAFF Local 188, and Richmond Fire Management Association, RFMA. And we have 6 speakers. And Jess Swirl will call the speakers.
Real quick,
Go ahead.
I need to state that I have to recuse myself from the Michael Davis versus City of Richmond closed session item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the speakers. The 6 speakers are Video, Pam Stello, Jeannie Quartz, Sally Tobin, Tarnell Abbott, and Lucy Gill. Video, please state your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start. Video. Okay, I will move on to Pam Stello. Pam Stello, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, good evening. My name is Pam Stello. I just want to sort of again remind the council of the history for Point Melody. So Point Melody is sacred Ohlone land and Richmond public land, and the proposed project moving forward is without the consent of either. And there's a pattern of this real theft of public land. Tom Butt, Jim Levine, and the Napa-based investor John Salmon put forward a housing plan for Point Melody in 1997. It was defeated by the city council, calling Point Melody the most dangerous cul-de-sac in the world. Then Tom Butt, as part of a small group of men, decided an urban casino would be the best way to go. So they put Jim Levine in the lead and John Salmon again the investor. Jim Levine went casino shopping and the Giddyville joined the project. When the plan failed because the public voted it down and the Bureau of Indian Affairs determined that the Giddyville had no historical or contemporary claim to the land, Jim Levine sued the city for $75 million in losses for a casino that couldn't ever have happened because it's Ohlone land. He appealed until he had no more appeals, and the courts ruled that he had to pay all the city's legal fees. Then Tom Butt, Jim Levine, and John Salmon put forward another housing plan in the form of a settlement in 2016. When that failed, with the help of the Point Melody Advisory Committee that Tom Butt then disbanded, Jim Levine, John Salmon, and Tom Butt put forward another housing plan in 2019. So for almost 25 years, Tom Butt, Jim Levine, and John Salmon have kept Ohlone and public land from use by the rightful owners. I mean, and the outcome of the only one public planning meeting that was ever held during this time, and only held after there was a settlement to limit public input, was overwhelmingly a regional park. Please, if you don't settle this litigation, it could go on for decades longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jeannie Courts. Jeannie, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Yes, thank you. Jeannie Courts, Richmond resident. I urge the city council to come to a settlement agreement on Point Malate. The majority of the Richmond community wants to see Point Malate become an East Bay Regional Park, not a private upscale housing enclave. We deserve a park that could be a world-class destination for all of Richmond and the entire Bay Area. Please listen to your constituents, not the developers who are taking advantage of the city of Richmond. And I agree with Pam Stello on John Sam and Jim Levine et al. Please encourage the Planning and Development Department to seek out ways to build affordable and mixed-use housing in our downtown, the core area of Richmond, and other neighborhoods. This makes more sense as most neighborhoods in the city have infrastructure in place, are close to public transportation, fire and police services, and would bring businesses that would follow these developments, thus bringing new job opportunities as well. Thank you for your time, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Now go ahead and try the previous speaker video. El próximo orador será el titulado video. Please turn on your sound. Por favor, prenda su sonido. Tendrá 2 minutos para hablar. Hello. Hello. Okay. I will move on to Sally Tobin. Sally, you have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Thank you. I'm Sally Tobin, a Richmond resident. I'd like to put in a word of support for Point Malate to serve as a community park for residents of Richmond and the region. This is my own personal vision. I see a complete ecosystem extending from the ridgeline and beneath the bay with its eelgrass. I see youth on sports fields and a welcoming beach park and hikers headed up the slope. I see the Ohlone tribe in charge of the remains of their ancestors and conducting ceremonial events at Point Malate. I see demonstrations of the Chinese shrimp camp and the Point Malate Railroad. I see water sports and educational resources and a ranger station and a restored wine haven. What do I not want to see? I do not want to see 1,500 to 2,000 residential units crowded into the bulldozed and clear-cut hillside. I do not want to see residents of the development in charge of the recreational resources. I do not want to see daily traffic jams that increase pollution levels for Richmond residents. I'm sure you get the idea. Please do what you can to ensure that Point Malate becomes a fabulous resource and activity and education and recreation center for the entire community instead of being sacrificed for an inappropriate and isolated upscale development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tarnell Abbott. Tarnell, you have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Yes, Tarnell Abbott, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Tarnell Abbott. I am a Richmond resident. I think I finally figured out I've been here for 34 years, but I am a 6th generation, or there's 6 generations of my family that have enjoyed Point Malate. And it's really a shame to think about it being lost to the public and put into the private development. This is clearly not a good place to have houses built. It is a complete ecosystem. I've been up on the ridgeline. It's an amazing thing. When you're up there, you can get the sense of how it's a watershed. That whole South Ridgeline anyway, or the whole South area is a watershed. And if you go down on the beach after a rain, you'll see the water that comes flowing down in little creeklets out of the from that upper watershed. That fresh water goes into the bay, and that mixture of fresh water and the salt water is what makes it possible for the eelgrass beds to be the healthiest ones in the Bay Area. That combined with the fact that they are the native, not transplanted eelgrass beds. In fact, they are used for transplantation in areas that have lost their eelgrass beds. We don't need more traffic and more building on our shoreline. This is a special treasure that should be made available to all of Richmond and any other people in the area. And we need this to be left as much as possible as a natural landscape so that we don't have to be totally overburdened by our over polluted and overbuilt city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lucy Gill. Lucy, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mayor Butt and City Council members, my name is Lucy Gill, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Anthropology at UC Berkeley, with experience working as an archaeologist on cultural resource management projects in the East Bay. In collaboration with colleagues at Berkeley, including Professor Kent Lightfoot, I reviewed the cultural resources assessment prepared in 2009 by Analytical Environmental Services. We found the archaeological research design, data collection, and analysis methods insufficient for characterizing the archaeological resources at Point Mulati. We have also reviewed all previous archaeological and geotechnical reports within the project APE, several of which describe undisturbed shell mound strata over 1 meter thick, recorded as recently as 2016 after the AES report was completed and not reported by AES. We confirmed the existence of one intact stratum of shell mound CaCCO 283 in a vertical exposure along the beach bluff within the APE, extending inland at least 10 to 20 meters. Borehole logs from geotechnical studies conducted at Point Mulati also record intact shell-bearing dark earth deposits within the mapped boundary of CaCCO 283 that were not discussed by AES. This investigation of 283 calls into question AES's characterizations of CaCCO 284, which will be impacted by the planned widening of Stenmark Drive, and CaCCO 423, located within the proposed development area. The persistence of intact deposits of shell mound 284 has already been confirmed by other CRM work after 2009. All of these sites need to be properly characterized and delimited, and our review has demonstrated that the AES report is inadequate for this purpose. We urge you to consider these important tribal cultural resources in any further decisions regarding Point Mulati, and to ensure that they are adequately studied prior to ground disturbing activity. I'm happy to provide further information regarding this work. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no more public speakers.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned to closed session.
Yes.
Okay, welcome everyone to this special meeting of the Richmond City Council. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bates. Councilmember Bates. Is absent. Councilmember Jimenez.
Presente.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Here.
Councilmember Willis.
Here.
And Mayor Butt.
Here.
And let me go back to Councilmember Bates. Are you here?
Okay, would you roll the public comment instructional video, please?
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted via Zoom pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. The mayor will call upon council members, staff, and other guest speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Council members, staff, and guest speakers participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Community members participating via Zoom wishing to speak should use the raised hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the mayor or city clerk will call upon them at the appropriate time. Community members will have up to 2 minutes to speak, 3 minutes for public hearings. After the speaker's time expires, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Community members participating via phone will be called upon to speak by the last 4 digits of their phone number. public input and participation are of the utmost importance to the City of Richmond City Council. Therefore, it is important for public speakers to be ready to address the council when called upon. Public speakers are requested to state their names and city of residence, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received before and during the meeting in accordance with the COVID-19 public comment guidelines printed on the meeting agenda will be entered into the record and published at the clerk's office webpage. If authors of written correspondence would also like to speak on the item, they should raise their hand when prompted by the mayor, and the city clerk will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. The meeting can be seen on KCRT's TV channel and is being streamed on Zoom, YouTube, and kcrt.com. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the City of Richmond City Council.
Debido a COVID-19, esta reunión se llevará a cabo a través de Zoom, en conformidad con las secciones de la orden ejecutiva del gobernador N-2920, que suspende ciertos requisitos de la Ley Brown. El alcalde llamará a los concejales, a los empleados de la ciudad y a otros invitados a hablar por nombre. Por favor, hable claramente y diga su nombre antes de dar su comentario. Se recuerda a los concejales, empleados de la ciudad y otros invitados participando a través de Zoom con sus cámaras encendidas que sus actividades son visibles al público. Miembros de la comunidad participando a través de Zoom que deseen hablar deberían de usar la función levantar la mano, en inglés raise hand, o marcar estrella 9 si están participando por teléfono. El alcalde y la secretaria municipal llamarán a los oradores en el momento apropiado. Miembros de la comunidad tendrán hasta 2 minutos para hablar y 3 minutos para temas de audiencias públicas. Después de que se expire el tiempo de orador, se le bajará la mano y el micrófono será silenciado. Miembros de la comunidad participando por teléfono serán llamados para su turno usando los últimos 4 dígitos de su número de teléfono. Los comentarios y la participación del público son de suma importancia para el Consejo Municipal. Por lo tanto, es importante que los oradores públicos estén listos para dar sus comentarios al Consejo Municipal cuando sean llamados. Se pide que los oradores públicos indiquen sus nombres y ciudad de residencia, pero proveer dicha información es voluntario. Comentarios escritos recibidos antes y durante la reunión, de acuerdo con las reglas designadas para comentario público durante el COVID-19, imprimidos en la agenda de la reunión, serán ingresados en el registro y se publicarán en la página web de la Secretaría Municipal. Si los autores de la correspondencia escrita también desean hablar sobre el tema, deberían levantar la mano cuando sea pedido por el alcalde, y la Secretaría Municipal los llamará en el momento apropiado. Se realizará una votación nominal para todos los puntos de acción. La reunión se podrá ver en el canal de televisión de KCRT y también se transmitirá en Zoom, YouTube y kcrt.com. Gracias por participar en una reunión de Consejo Municipal de la ciudad de Richmond.
Okay, the next item is statement of conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict of interest they want to declare? I don't see any. The next item is agenda review. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes.
Councilman McLaughlin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to discuss a scheduling matter, and I would like that to be discussed right after consent calendar.
Do you want to do what?
To discuss a scheduling matter.
Well, it's not on the agenda. I'm not sure you can do it. You could bring it up on, under item J, reports of officers, if you want to.
I think the city attorney, could you let us know if discussing a scheduling matter is fine, even if it isn't agendized?
Yes, scheduling matters can be discussed at any meeting, whether it's on the agenda or not. And it's up to the mayor and the council when that happens.
So I
Well,
would like that to happen right after consent calendar. It's important.
well, I'm inclined to take it up under item J.
I am not, I would, if that's your ruling, I would make a motion to overturn your ruling.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I second that.
Okay, let's take a vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates,
No.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Martinez, your vote?
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Yes.
Mayor Butt.
No.
The motion passes with Councilmember Bates, Vice Mayor Johnson, and Mayor Butt voting no.
Okay, and where did you want it? You wanted it right after the consent calendar?
Right, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I thought this required a 2/3 vote of the council.
No, not to overturn the rule of the mayor. It's, I
I'm
know.
asking the legal
Sorry,
counsel.
sorry,
you.
Councilmember.
What was your
Thank you.
question, Councilmember Bates?
I was under the impression that adding the item to the agenda after the close of the public notice requires a 2/3 vote of the council.
So this, you're not adding an item. You don't need an item to discuss a pure scheduling matter. And so the question that was posed was whether or not the council majority wanted to overrule the mayor's decision about where to put the discussion on the scheduling matter. And under your rules, Roman I, subcapital A, it says that the mayor has final say on all rules subject to being overturned by a majority of the council. So you would need a majority, which is 4 votes.
Okay, so we're still on agenda review. Anybody else have any other changes to review? Nat, you had something earlier.
I requested H15 be removed. I've spoken to the city clerk and I've spoken to the public works personnel from the CC calendar.
Any other agenda modifications? Okay, so the only one is item H15 removed. And the next
And
item,
I might add, Mr. Mayor, because of the 2 items you and I have, and the one that I have reference to fireworks and the auto, those 2 items could very easily be combined. We don't have to discuss them individually. They all are consistent and relate to each other.
okay. Okay, next item is report from the city attorney of final decisions made during closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were no final decisions made in closed session.
City attorney, didn't we make a decision to schedule a special meeting in August?
That is not a final decision that needs to be reported out, but yes, in fact, you did.
Okay, well, I beg to differ with you. I think it is a decision, and I think you should be reporting those kinds of things out instead of keeping them secret.
Mr. Mayor, the things that are happening in closed session that are not required report outs, there needs to be a vote of council to report them out. So I am not at liberty to report out things that are not required without consent of the full council. That particular one is a scheduling matter, and yes, a decision was made.
Okay, well, I disagree with you, but okay, it's out now. Okay, next item is report from the city manager.
There is no report this evening.
And the next item is open forum for public comment.
We do have speakers. And just to remind the public, open forum is an opportunity for residents to speak to the council on issues that remain on the consent calendar or items that are not on the agenda. And right now we have 4 speakers.
Okay, the 4 speakers are Tarnell Abbott, Richmond firefighters, Marina Brown, and Lisa Johnson. Tarnell, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tarnell Abbott. I am a 34-year resident of the city of Richmond. And I think congratulations is due to a lot of community members and to our some of our environmental organizations, and a big thank you to Supervisor John Joya for testimony in front of the Bay Area Air Quality District, which is resulting in more stringent pollution controls on the Chevron refinery and one of the refineries in Martinez. So I think that's really good news for a change, and I'm happy about that. Speaking of air pollution, you know, there's indoor air pollution, and I would urge you to find a way to, if it's not in there, and I don't think it is, find a way to make sure that the library, the main library, gets an HVAC system that is modernized. I believe there's a really antique one in there that isn't used, but they should have one, and especially in this era of COVID. And other than that, please remember, whenever you get requests for putting housing on toxic land, that toxic fumes come up through minute cracks in foundations, and they come up through cracks in toilet seals, and they come up through cracks in sewer lines, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's keep the health of our community at the forefront of our thoughts, no matter what, because that is your primary job. Above and beyond whatever the developers want, it is your job to take care of the health and safety of the residents of this city. So please find a way to make sure that happens at Campus Bay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Richmond firefighters. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Good evening. My name is Luis Padilla, President, Richmond Firefighters Local 188. I wanted to share a story and just let everybody know the terrific job your firefighters are doing out there. On July 10th, the crew of Fire Station 68 at Hilltop responded to the report of a medical emergency on the 3000 block of Shane Drive. Upon arrival, they discovered a person having a diabetic episode and proceeded to render care. While loading the patient into the ambulance, the patient shared that they were a DoorDash driver and the emergency occurred while they were on their way to deliver food. The patient was stressed that their customer would not get their food or their order. To put the patient at ease, Fire Captain Jeremy Booth asked if it would be okay, make him feel better if the crew delivered the food. The driver gave them permission and was incredibly thankful. The crew then drove to the house and delivered the food to the customer. The customer was very emotional and thankful. The surrounding neighbors came out and everyone cheered and got a good laugh. I'd like to thank Captain Jeremy Booth, Engineer Sean McComb, and Firefighter Chris Riccardi for going above and beyond to provide excellent community service. For the record, this is something that the fire department typically does not do before people start calling 911 to order food. It's just an example of the kind of firefighters you have serving your community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marina Brown. Marina, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
I'm Marina Brown, a longtime Richmond resident, also the president of the Shields Reed Neighborhood Council and a supporting member of the Richmond Neighbors for Safer Communities. And I want to speak on abolishing reimagining public safety task force. Or if you don't abolish it, can you please remove Tamisha Walker, effective immediately, based upon her actions in defunding the Richmond Police Department and cutting 14 sworn officers' positions? That was the 12 vacancies, plus the 2 community safety officers, while calling for more sworn officers in Antioch and capitalizing on Richmond's loss of sworn officers. For example, the 2 Richmond Police Department officers have just gone to Antioch, given the lack of support from this majority council and task force. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Great. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff. I was not able to attend the RNCC meeting this week, but unfortunately, I wish I had, because I really wanted to hear exactly what was said. But from my understanding, Councilmember McLaughlin has requested that as part of the city beautification process, that the city consider making street sweeping signs now an optional thing throughout the city, and having them physically removed if a neighborhood opts out. This is problematic on several fronts. First of all, a city cannot ticket without a posted sign. People, residents and non-residents, are not going to move their vehicles if there are zero consequences. Currently a policy that the RPA majority passed in either January or February earlier this year. We are mandated by state law to clean our streets and prevent waste from entering into the bay. It seems that this is a selfish act to support the privileged interests of some in her own Richmond Annex community who just simply don't want to move their car. Who is going to pay to have signs removed? Most importantly, this is inviting yet another lawsuit to the city from baykeepers, as this is in clear violation of our requirement to clean our streets in the interest of public safety and keeping the bay healthy. For someone who stands up for environmental sake, I do not understand. This is a complete odds and hypocrisy to keeping our bay healthy. And we want and deserve clean streets, and people can move their cars. I also am calling upon the immediate removal of Tamisha Walker, effective immediately, from the Richmond Public Safety Task Force for Reimagining Public Safety. Her actions are in complete conflict for the safety of Richmond residents and at the benefit of her own city, taking our sworn officers and increasing their staff at the expense of Richmond's. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Madeline Law. Madeline, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start. Madeline Law.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can go ahead and start.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members and staff. My name is Madeline Law and I live in Park Plaza neighborhood, and I am a member of Richmond Neighbors for Safer Communities. I want to open a can of worms that has been buried for a long time. The Miraflores housing development that has been sitting in Park Plaza neighborhood undone for over 20 years. Why has the city allowed this? Park Plaza neighbors have been dealing with this for a long time. We have been promised that the development was going to be completed by the developers, and they are dragging their feet, and the city has allowed them to do this. I want some answers about this. Many of the council members that are sitting now know when this project started way back in 2006. That's close to 27 years. And this property still sits undeveloped. Like I said, I would really like to know, have some answers on it. Someone must be responsible. Speaking of responsible, Councilman Torres Walker, a council member in the city of Antioch, has the audacity to advise the city of Richmond on how to reimagine its public safety department when hers is lacking and she's asking for 4 additional police in her city. She is one that should and needs to be removed and eliminated from the task force, along with a few of those others that don't live in Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Randy Joseph. Randy, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Mute. Hi, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Randy Joseph. I'm a Richmond community member, and I just wanted to speak to invite everybody on Saturday, August 7th at 11:30 a.m. to a Richmond Stop the Violence Caravan that's happening. We're starting at Richmond City Hall, and then we're going to end at the Put the Guns Down event at Nevin Park that's happening at 1 o'clock, and to have people go there as well. This is a community-led event to get people to come together, to get the community, to get the word out that we want the violence to stop. We want people to stop shooting and killing each other, and to somehow bring the community together by showing off cars and just parading the city to show that lives matter to people and lives matter to the community. And I want to make sure that people can go to Facebook. There is a Google Docs link to register to have your card be a part of the caravan. And we want to see community members. And I hope I see the mayor and city council members out there with us to help stop the violence. Because through all these debates and everything that's been happening with the task force and other things, I think everybody can come together for one common goal. Nobody wants violence in our community. And we all talk about that. We want violence to end. We want certain things to happen. So I want to invite everybody to August 7th again for the Richmond Stop the Violence Caravan. It's happening at 11th. We want to start setting up at 11:30 at Richmond City Hall, and we're going to drive around Richmond and end up at the Put the Guns Down event at Nevin Park. And I hope to see everyone there. And more information, please reach out to me on Facebook. My information is there, and fill out the Google Doc. Thank you, and that's my time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Emily Ross. Emily, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start. Emily?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Emily Ross. I'm a Richmond resident. Wasn't planning to speak tonight, but after hearing, several of the comments regarding Tamisha Torres Walker, I just wanted to chime in quickly. This is certainly not the first attack on Reimagine Public Safety Task Force member Tamisha Torres Walker. There have been a series of attacks on her. Many of them are racialized. She's a Black woman. Many of them are, challenging her residency, challenging her commitment to Richmond, despite the demonstrated work that she has done here that can be attested to easily. And specifically to what people are speaking to tonight, which Mayor Butt has sort of sparked, is that in her role as Antioch City Council member, she called for 4 more police officers in her community. This does not contradict the work that our task force is doing in Richmond. We're 2 different communities with different needs, different assets, different factors to consider. And if anything, I think we'd want to support someone who's open to many approaches to public safety, including, but not limited to, the police. Thank you, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mike Parker. Mike, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Thank you. I want to just follow up on what Emily has just said. I agree with everything that she has to say. I want to go one step further. I think that this attack on Tamisha because she's not a resident is totally misplaced. The whole idea is that Richmond is a community of people who both live and work here. The people who live here have the most power. They get to vote. But the people who work here are part of the community and have a lot to add to the community, and we want to hear their voices. So it's right that the commission to determine policing policy in Richmond includes not only residents, but also people who live and work here. Tamisha is an executive officer of a group that works in Richmond, Safe Return. Andres Soto is executive director of CBE, which has just helped win this wonderful victory for Richmond and the community as a whole in getting the scrubbers of the refineries cleaned up. And it's equally as right that the mayor appointed one person to be on the task force, and Bates appointed one person to be on the task force who are not residents. That is, and they should be on the task force. That is, we should have the Chamber of Commerce head on the task force to hear from them. We should have the police union chief on the task force to hear from them. This has got nothing to do with whether somebody is a resident. It's got to do with, are we hearing from the voices we need to hear from in order to come up with good ideas? And I think we welcome people who work in Richmond to be part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no more public speakers.
Okay, that brings us to the city council consent calendar. We've had item H15 removed to the bottom of the calendar, and I would like a motion on the remainder of it.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Willis,
I'll second.
second by McLaughlin. Call the roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Yes.
and Mayor Butt.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Okay, and that brings us to items I1 and I2, and Councilmember Bates asked that we take them together.
But
And-
we go to my item, not my item, but my scheduling matter.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, okay, bring it up. Sorry about that.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to just go right into a motion, and this is a two-part motion. Part one is that we add to the July 27th agenda an item to change the city council rule that gives the mayor discretion to unilaterally cancel meetings. And part two of the same motion is to preemptively suspend the rule that gives the mayor discretion to unilaterally cancel city council members, and to have that suspension remain in place through the earlier of either the end of September or when the city council considers and makes a decision on whether to change the rule. Now, I know this is a motion that requires 5 votes since we're suspending the rules preemptively, that is ahead of time. And I'm suggesting that it stay in place through the end of September because that we will be on break, and if we need a special meeting, and this will impact at most a handful of city council meetings in case some pressing business comes up. But of course, if we get this rule change approved at the city council meeting on Tuesday, which is part of this motion, adding it to Tuesday's agenda, that will of course change the policy. So that's my motion, Mr. Mayor.
So these two items, you're asking if they be put on Tuesday's agenda, right?
It's the one item on Tuesday's agenda is to add to the July 27th agenda an item to change the rule that gives the mayor and to preemptively, starting now, to suspend the rule preemptively, either through the end of September or when the city council makes the rule change.
Well, the first one's fine, but the second one, you can't do it because you cannot, if you want to add an item to the agenda, you said you wanted to put a scheduling item on the agenda.
Well, this is a scheduling. Yeah, let me rephrase that. So it's the motion is to preemptively suspend the rule that gives the mayor the discretion to unilaterally cancel city council meetings, and to have that suspension remain in place through the end of September or when we have the city council meeting on July 27th, which I am seeking to add an agenda to change that rule.
Okay, but my point is that if you're seeking to change that rule tonight, you can't do it.
No.
You're not.
I'm preemptively suspending the rule.
Wait, you can't preemptively suspend anything.
City Attorney, would you speak to that, please?
So as I'm understanding the motion, it's a two-part motion. The first part is to direct the clerk's office to put an item on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Correct.
the second part of the motion would be to suspend your rule effective now if the motion passes, and to have that the rule that allows the mayor to cancel meetings, and to allow this suspension to stay in place until, I believe you said, the earlier of the end of September, or the time at which the council considers and makes a decision one way or the other on whether to change the rule.
I understand that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Is that the motion?
That is the motion, correct.
Okay, but the point is, the first part of it, that's no problem. Any council member can put anything on any agenda. The second part of it, it sounds like that's something you want to enact tonight, right?
Well, I think she's.
Go ahead, city attorney.
I think she's asking to have the rules suspended, and the rule that she's suspending is a rule that deals with essentially scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, city attorney, this is a Brown Act issue. You know, if the city council, this is not about suspending rules. This is about a Brown Act issue. This is an agenda item that you know, has to have proper notice to be acted on by the city council. It's not a scheduling item. It's an item to change the rules. And it's not been noticed for this meeting. This is not an emergency item. You can't do it. You just can't do it. You can put it on next week's, you can put it on the 27th, but you can't put it on tonight's agenda. You can't suspend the Brown Act.
So I just want to be clear. So Mr. Mayor, your concern is about part 2 of the motion, not about part 1. Okay. Right. Okay. So part 2 is proposing to suspend your rules that would then, and that rule relates to scheduling. So I don't think that it needs to be on the agenda to preemptively suspend that rule for long enough for the council to consider the item.
City attorney, you're full of it. You know, this has nothing to do with scheduling. It has to do with changing the city council rules. To change the rules, it has to be agendized. The Brown Act will not let you put something on the agenda the same night of a meeting unless it's an emergency item. So you're just flat wrong. You may be an attorney, but I just don't think you're very smart. Thank you.
But Mr. Mayor,
City attorney, you just can't do it. You can't suspend the Brown Act.
We are suspending the rules, not the Brown Act.
The Brown Act requires you to put an agenda item on the agenda to consider suspending the rules.
We suspend the rules often.
It's not on the agenda. You cannot add it to the agenda unless it's an emergency item. It's not an emergency item. I'm not going to allow it. And I think you're on some really, really dangerous ground.
I would argue that it is an emergency.
Well, you know, there's things, there are things I can do. I don't want to go there, but I advise you.
Well, I think you should go there.
You're not recognized, Councilmember Martinez. City attorney, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I don't think anyone is contemplating suspending the Brown Act. As I'm understanding the motion is to suspend your rules. That's not something that needs to be on your agenda. You routinely suspend your rules, and in fact did so earlier in this meeting. Suspension of the rules is a procedural matter that pertains to how meetings are run. This particular rule that's being proposed to be suspended is a rule that deals with scheduling. And so you're suspending your rules for a period of time. I understand you disagree, but I do not see this as a Brown Act concern.
Well, I'll tell you what, if that's where you think we're going to go, I will utilize my mayoral discretion right now to cancel the meeting on the 27th. So that meeting is hereby canceled.
No.
You can do whatever you want to now.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. We're in the process of voting on a motion that we need to finish. We need to finish this motion right now.
That's fine, but first of all, I'm holding the motion out of order. Second of all, I'm telling you that right now, I am canceling.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, I would like to make a motion to overturn your ruling that I'm out of order. Is there a second to my motion?
I second that.
Okay,
Well, I'm not sure you can overturn a ruling that somebody's out of order.
I think we can. I think we can.
Well, I'm not gonna allow it.
Well, we're gonna do it because
I
we have
move that we
plans.
overturn that.
We'll
The
overturn
whole thing
that.
is contrary to the Brown Act, and
I move that we,
the city attorney is complicit in a plot to overturn the Brown Act. You can't do that.
That is not
everything's a
the
plot
case.
when it's not what you want.
Move the item.
I'm not going to allow it.
Mr. Mayor, you have to allow it. There is a motion to end debate and to vote on the motion that you are overruling.
You can vote. We can vote on your first motion if you want to do that.
All right, let's vote on the first motion, but no, the two parts of one motion.
Well, actually, I've canceled the meeting for the 27th. So
No, that is not valid, Mr. Mayor. That is not valid. We are in the process of a meeting with a motion on the floor.
It doesn't make any difference. The rules say.
Yes, it does, Mr. Mayor. You are violating procedure by not moving this motion forward.
No, the rules do not say when the mayor can or cannot suspend the meeting.
But the rules say when there's a motion on the floor, and there is a motion to end debate, you have to move it forward.
It says the mayor has discretion, and I'm exercising.
Like what is we're trying to do here, it really is to make sure that we keep the business. We don't want to get a government shutdown by the mayor. This is what is happening here right now. We had two deadlines that we had to vote tonight, and we have to vote next time. We are going into recess, and if we have a mayor who is trying to stop the city council and the staff for doing the business and to get the deadlines and the grants approval, then we cannot do that. And if you don't call it government shutdown, I don't know how you call it. But what we are trying to do here is trying to get our work done in a way that everybody can continue the work. And I think that this is so irrespectful, not only for the city council, not only for the staff, but for the public, because you, by doing what you are doing, you are putting in jeopardy the budget, the budgetary items in the city. So please, just let us to make sure that we continue to do the business in the city. This is the responsible thing to do, not just trying to manage this as it was your farm, because this is not your farm. You were elected and you have a responsibility to all Richmond City members to allow us to finish the business.
Why don't we vote on the first part of Gail's motion, get it out of the way?
No,
we're voting on both parts.
I want to vote on both. And I also want to state that this is an emergency. So if we get 5 votes on this, please note that this is an emergency based on the fact that we have city business that needs essential attention.
So just to be clear, this is not an emergency in the sense in terms of the Brown Act emergency. It's a different kind of an emergency. I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Yes.
So we're not invoking a Brown Act emergency provision.
No, we're just voting on this because it's important and it's essential and it's urgent.
I want to read again what this says. According to our rules, any future regular or special meeting may be canceled by the mayor at the mayor's discretion. Now, that's a rule. If you guys want to change the rule, like you're talking about doing on the 27th, then you can properly agendize it and you can consider it. But you can't bring it up. You can't put it on the agenda tonight and consider it. It's a Brown Act violation.
We're considering it tomorrow night. We're preemptively
Tomorrow night?
stopping you from canceling it.
We have a
And
meeting
in the
tomorrow
meantime,
night?
I think perhaps the council member misspoke and is asking to have it put on for Tuesday, the 27th. Is that
yes,
what you're asking?
what did
Not tomorrow.
What did I state? Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I meant to.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, again, I'm ruling that we can vote on the first part of the motion, but we cannot vote on the second part. It would be a violation of the Brown Act to put this item on the agenda and vote on it.
City, I move the item based on the city attorney has clarified for us that we can. So I move the
The
item.
city attorney is not right. I'm telling you. She may be the city attorney, but it doesn't mean that she's all knowing. She's
And
wrong.
Mr. Mayor, we have a right to decide to look at the facts for ourselves and determine who is right and who is
Well,
not right.
I'm ruling that you cannot do that.
Well, I make a motion that we overturn your ruling.
Well,
I second
I
that.
said,
you can't do that.
we just did.
So you're welcome to vote on the first part of the motion, but the second
We just
part,
did. You've been overruled.
I think you need a motion to, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
May I?
What?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I'm raising my hand asking to be recognized.
Go ahead, city attorney.
So I think the motion right now is to overrule the mayor's ruling on the Councilmember McLaughlin's two-part motion. And so I think I think I heard a second, although I'm not sure who the second was on that. I think there may have been 2 seconds.
Well, I'm saying you can't do it because it's a violation of the Brown Act. It's a violation of the law. And you city attorney are sworn to uphold the law, not to collaborate with council members to try to find a way to get
And
around.
Mayor, you were sworn to do city business, not to halt it.
No, I wasn't sworn to do city business. I was sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of California. And that's what I'm trying to do.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Well,
the motion.
your interpretation.
You have to move an item when an end debate, move the item or an overruling of your position is on the floor. That is always the case. You
Well,
know that, I know that.
I'm not going to do it. You guys can physically throw me out of here, but I'm not going to allow this. It's just not going to happen on my watch.
So
Well,
what's the consequence here?
I'm not going to
Because
let
we
you
need
guys
to
violate
move-
the state constitution.
What are
We're not.
I just wanted to say, like, what is the right procedure here? Because it seems that the right procedure here is that when we overrule the mayor, we go and vote and do the things. But it seems that right now the mayor is blocking that. So what is the right procedures, city attorney?
We've got other business tonight. Why don't we vote on Councilor McLaughlin's, the first part of her motion, get out of the way. Why don't we go through the rest of the agenda and get it out of the way? And then we can bring this up and talk about it, okay?
I think we should just ask the city clerk to call the roll because the mayor is not adhering
You
to
can't
the
ask the city
procedure.
clerk to call the roll because you're not the mayor. You don't.
Well,
preside
you're
over
not,
the meeting.
you're not doing the procedural work that the mayor needs to do. Maybe the vice mayor should
Well,
take over.
that's your opinion. There's no provision for the vice mayor or council member to take over because you don't like what the mayor's doing.
It's
Well, if
not
the
a matter of
mayor-
not
You
liking
can't
it.
do
It's a matter of you not doing your job.
That's right.
Well, that's your opinion.
That's
Yeah.
more than our opinion. It's quite clear. When I was mayor, I had to move forward items when things were such that I didn't want to move them forward, and I did.
Yeah,
Hey, Mr. Mayor, this thing is getting out of hand. Let's move to another item.
This rule was adopted when you were the mayor, Councilor.
Yes, and you,
We are
and
not
it
moving
was,
to other item. We are
looked
going
like
to overrule the mayor so we can get the city business because he already said that he will cancel the next Tuesday meeting when we need that meeting. So what we are trying to do here is to finish what we need to do in the city. So we are overruling him to be able to have the next Tuesday meeting. And we should not be doing this. We should be
I
going
make a
and say
motion that
yes
we
to go
end
to
debate.
Tuesday meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
So-
I make a motion that we end debate. we end debate now.
We
I
have a
make that
motion. We have
motion.
a motion
So
to,
you're gonna move that one forward for him. Yeah.
well, we,
A
Well,
motion
no.
to end debate, take precedent. Either vote it up or down.
well,
That's
So if
right.
I get a
And what's
second-
on the
what do you need
floor is
debate
a
on?
two-part
Yes,
item.
what's on the
Because-
floor is the
because it was-
two-part
Councilmember
item.
Bates, there's not a proper motion is not on the floor, so
A
we
proper,
can't.
a
Yes,
proper
there
motion
is.
was made.
There's a motion, the motion on the floor next is the motion to overrule the mayor's decision about whether to allow the two-part motion
Okay, so
that began this.
that's what
We can-
we're
we can-
ending debate on, right?
We can vote on
Right.
the first part, but not the second part. I don't know why you don't want to vote on the first part.
Because you are canceling the Tuesday meeting. And
Yes.
we want to make sure that you don't cancel that. So the motion here is overrule you, so we can do that. And this is the motion that we are going to vote right now. So please, City Clerk, can you call the vote? So we
No.
can continue this meeting as well. Thank you.
Not unless we agree that we're going to vote on the first part of Councilor McLaughlin's motion.
We are, what is on the floor is the motion to overrule you.
Well,
That motion was closed by by Councilmember Bates. It's time to vote.
It's an improper motion because it's a violation of the Brown Act.
It's an improper motion to overrule you? I don't believe so.
Well, what you're overruling is my ruling that it's a violation of the Brown Act.
Okay.
No, your opinion.
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we vote on the first portion of the motion by McLaughlin. If I get a second, let's vote and see what happens, and then you can argue all you want to.
Is there a second?
So that's the substitute motion.
Okay, is there a
Take
second on the
precedence over the
substitute?
main motion. We can't keep
Hey,
going back and forth.
I'll second it. So let's,
All right, that motion is a proper motion and it's
that's
should be
right, it's a
voted
proper
upon.
motion. So you can call the roll on that, City Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
No.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Martinez,
No.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
No.
Councilmember Willis,
No.
and Mayor Butt.
No. Okay, so that motion fails, and there's not another proper motion, so.
There is
gonna
another
move to-
motion. Mr.
we're
Mayor,
gonna
the
move
motion
to,
There is another motion.
to overrule
gonna
your,
We're
And
gonna
that
move to
motion was
item
to
I.
overrule you.
We're gonna move to item I1 and I2.
No,
Mr.
the motion is to overrule you so we can vote. So this is the motion that is on the floor and we need to go and vote. So please call it.
Well, I'm not gonna allow it. You guys can.
Mayor,
I'm not
I don't
gonna-
want to say it.
Mr. Mayor, you cannot do what you're doing. You have to move an item when it's on the floor. It's on the floor.
Next item.
I don't have to do anything that's illegal.
This is
Let's
not
move
illegal.
on.
This is not illegal.
Let's move on to item I1 and I2.
No, we are.
Item
I need to-
I1 and I2. Item I1 is to
we-
direct
we-
staff to draft amendments to Richmond Municipal Code, Chapter 11.05.
I'm sorry.
Well,
There was a motion.
Hey, don't interrupt the clerk. She's reading the motion.
So please, city attorney, can you talk? No, we are not going to allow this also. If you
Yeah,
are not allowing us to do this business, we are not going to allow this. So please, city attorney.
Attorney, do you have any advice for us at this point?
Your rules clearly say that the mayor has the final say on all rules, subject to being overturned by the majority of the city council. There is a motion on the floor to overrule the mayor's ruling with regard to the two-part motion that was previously made. It seems to me that the mayor is out of order.
Thank you.
Well, it's just not right. I don't know how many times I have to say it, that what you're essentially doing is putting a motion on the floor to change the city council rules, even if it's for a short time, and that's something you have to agendize.
We
And
always
the Brown Act requires it to be agendized.
We
And
always
the only way you can agendize it is if it qualifies for an emergency item, which it doesn't.
So what about if we vote on the first part and with a pledge that you won't cancel the meeting on January 27th. So we can have that, because what we are afraid of is that we just vote on the first part of the motion, which you agree on, but then you cancel the meeting because you don't want to do that, to have the results. So if you make public pledge that you are not going to cancel the meeting on Tuesday, July 27th, then we can vote on the motion to put it on the agenda what the City Council McLaughlin is saying.
Oh, no, I'm not going there. I'm not cutting any deals with you guys.
No.
It's interesting. These rules were adopted when Council Member McLaughlin was mayor.
That's not correct. That's not correct.
It sounded like a good idea to her then, but now that somebody else is mayor, it doesn't sound so good.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. This was adopted when Mayor Anderson was mayor.
No, it wasn't. It was.
Yes,
adopted.
it was.
These rules were last revised in October. Well, let's see.
They were
effective. It was June 18th, 2013, April 22nd, 20.
That was for amendments to change.
2014. Were you mayor all those years?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, amendments were made by the council to change the order of the agenda. Those kind of amendments came about. The actual rules document was approved in 2006 when Mayor Anderson was, and you were on the council, and you may have been the one who put in this phrase, but I don't believe this phrase had anything to do with stopping a meeting because you want to stop a meeting due to your political point of view. It had something to do with stopping it if an emergency came up or whatever. You're misusing that. I was not mayor when it was presented. You got that all wrong.
Well, you certainly could have changed it. Okay,
It has nothing to do with the fact that we're.
If you guys don't want to vote on McLaughlin's first motion, we're gonna move.
The city attorney has her hands raised.
My comment was that I would suggest that we move the discussion about the history of the rule and why it was adopted, to the extent that you all want to talk about that, to next Tuesday if the item is put on the agenda. So the item, the first part is to agendize it, to have it added to the agenda for Tuesday. And then the second part is the part that the mayor is taking issue with, which is the suspension of the rule for the period of time that the council member said. At this point, you still have a motion to overrule the mayor's ruling on this. Your rules clearly state that a majority can overrule that. That it appears, as I said before, that would need to go forward, and that if the mayor is not allowing it, that the mayor is out of order, based on your clear rules that currently exist.
That's your opinion, city attorney, but I think you've got it all wrong. This is not simply a motion to overturn a ruling of the mayor. It's a motion to violate the Brown Act. And you're trying to dress it up like something else, and you just can't do that. You should know that.
Mr. Mayor, the rules are never put on the agenda when the rules are going to be. The rules govern the procedure that you have in front of you, the rules that you've adopted, along with an adoption of Rosenberg's rules that allow you to function and give you rules. You routinely suspend your rules. None of that ever goes on the agenda. The Brown Act doesn't require it. And so the motion, the second part of the motion that the council member has made is a suspension of the rules. The only difference is she's suspending it for a short period of time rather than just an immediate motion. That's the only difference.
It doesn't make any difference. You know, it's like, what if the motion had said, well, let's suspend everything we've adopted about rules. Let's suspend Rosenberg's rules of order. Let's suspend the city council rules. And you just did it. You can't do that. You know, these were all adopted in in properly noticed meetings of the city council. They were agendized. And you can't change them just by calling it a scheduling item or a temporary suspension or something like that, you know? They're the rules. If you want to change them, you certainly can do that, but you have to properly agendize it and vote on it. And you haven't done that.
City Attorney, when we have a strong disagreement with the mayor and the city attorney has given us advice that we can proceed and he is unwilling to, is there another route that you can suggest for us?
First of all, you all don't have any right to ask the city attorney about any of this. If you have, I'm as mayor, I'm the only one who can ask advice from the city attorney about rules. So this dialogue between you and the city attorney is all improper, you know, and I
don't have a right to ask our city attorney questions?
No, you don't. You don't.
I disagree.
Well, you do offline, but you don't have a right to do it.
We've got a two-way conversation. Let me chime in.
Yeah.
There is a due process.
Conversation.
There's a due process. And I have to agree with the mayor. If you want to change something, and you all talk about transparency, then the public need to be notified. It should be on the agenda and allow them. What you're doing, usurping the public's involvement. So the only way you're going to resolve this is put it on the agenda, allow the public to come forward, make it legal, and do what you got to do. But to continue to argue about it.
Exactly on point, Councilmember Bates.
But the only problem is that the mayor has already made it known that he will not let the talk about it.
Yes,
that's why you put it on the agenda.
Councilmember Bates, I speak to you as one reasonable person to another. Do you understand that the mayor is going to cancel the meeting so that we cannot get it on the agenda to discuss a rules change? So we have to preemptively suspend the rules so that we can get it on the agenda. I know you're a reasonable man, Nat, and I ask you to decide.
Well, then why can't we just schedule it for next week and allow the public to come?
Because he'll cancel the meeting.
He's already canceled the meeting.
Well,
I can uncancel.
The next, well, the idea is that you want the public to speak on this item. I'm not saying that either one of you are right or wrong, but don't pass rules and regulations without involving your community. Let them have a say.
That's an excellent point, Nat.
That's the motion.
It's clear that several council members and the city attorney have already discussed this and plotted, how they're going to do it. And now they want to exclude the public from the conversation.
Everything is a plot to you, and you're the one who wants to exclude the public.
Actually, no. What we are trying to do is to make sure that this item is scheduled for the next agenda and that this council meeting is not canceled. Because
then put it on the agenda.
Well, put it on the agenda.
He's already canceled it. He wants to cancel that. This is what we are trying to do, but we need to make sure that it's not canceled. This is, and I asked him here in this meeting if he is willing to make a pledge in front of everybody in the public that he won't cancel that meeting so we can have that meeting, so we can have the public to speak on it. And he said no, he doesn't want to do that. So this is why we need to do this.
I'll think about it.
He'll think
about it.
That's not good enough. We just want this one item on the agenda, and we don't want the meeting canceled before we have a chance to discuss it and to do whatever the council votes on Tuesday.
Put it on the agenda and let's see what happens.
Okay, then are you willing to not cancel it? Cancel the meeting or take it off the meeting?
I told you I'd think about it. We'll talk about it.
Not good enough. Are you willing to make a pledge?
No, not at this time.
Okay, then I think we need to go with the motion that's on the floor.
Well, We're not going to go with that motion. It's an improper motion. It's a
It's not
violation
improper.
of the Brown Act. Violation of the Brown Act.
It's not
We-
improper.
We have a motion to overrule your ruling, and that is something that has been done repeatedly.
No, it's an improper motion.
It's not.
Well,
Let's
we've got,
move on.
we've got other matters on the agenda.
And the
that
mayor
need
is holding us
attention.
up.
We
The
can't
mayor
keep
is holding us up.
item and get-
The mayor is holding
There
us
are
up.
other importance,
The
a lot
mayor
more
is holding
important
us
than
up.
this.
The mayor is holding us up.
So, okay,
Well, you-
let's do this. Let's vote because the public deserve to continue this meeting because we deserve to do our job. Let's vote, like, let's say that we are going to put this on the agenda. And the public will know if the mayor is going to cancel or not, and leave it up to him. Let's leave it up to him. Let's make sure that the public know right now that we want to put that. So my motion is that we vote with the first part of the council member McLaughlin point, and we leave it to the city mayor, and the public will know if this is not a government shutdown or not.
All right, I will second that motion, and this is why. Because if the mayor can't, we're revisiting that issue and the first part of it, and with the mayor not willing to pledge that he's not going to cancel the meeting or that he's not going to remove that one item, because we want that item on the agenda without it being removed. You've removed items already.
I don't have any authority to remove an item.
Yes, you did. You removed a public hearing,
I did
from what I
not.
hear.
No, I didn't remove it.
Come on, you know better than that. You remove items all the time.
I requested that it be removed. Somebody else removed it. I didn't remove it.
Okay, well,
I accepted that addition to my motion. And let's see if the public will continue to believe a mayor who wants to shut down the government here in Richmond.
Well, I'll tell you what I will do for now. You know, I said twice this night that I was canceling the meeting for the 27th. So I'll withdraw that. I'm not canceling it as of now. I'll take it under consideration. This whole thing is like, you know, it's like you sprung it on me. I need to consult with my, you know, my own consultants, my own legal counsel, and you know, see what the situation is. I can't, you know, you guys just sprung this on me like a gotcha. So I would suggest that we vote on the first part of Councilor McLaughlin's motion. We put it on the 27th. For now, I will withdraw the statement I made about canceling the meeting, and I will take this under consideration. I want to talk to some people about some of the legal issues, and I can't do that right now. It's going to take some time. I'm not getting good legal advice from the city attorney, so I got to go somewhere else.
So the motion is to do the first part, and we will see. Councilmember Jimenez, you said you accepted my amendment so that this is going to be an example. If the mayor does cancel either the whole meeting or takes off this one item, it would be an example of him totally disrupting the process of good government.
Okay, but it doesn't take that power away from me for now, right?
But it should. That power was never meant to be on one person's hand. Never.
You should have removed it when you were mayor if it was
And
that.
This
Okay.
is unprecedented. Nobody has done it. Nobody has done it before. No mayor in the city of Richmond has done it.
I think I understand the motion. Maybe just to make it clear, City Clerk, you want to read it back?
I was just going to ask Councilmember McLaughlin to clarify her amendment to the motion.
my amendment is, it's to put this on the agenda with the hopes that the mayor will keep it on the agenda. And if he doesn't, it will be an example of if he can't, it will be example of bad government, and the public should note that, either by canceling the whole meeting or removing that one item.
Okay, I don't have any problem of holding a vote on that. So, and there, who seconded it? Councilmember Jimenez, is that? you?
Councilmember Jimenez was the mover and
Made the
Councilmember
motion and-
McLaughlin is the second.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, let's call a roll on that.
Councilmember Bates,
Yes, at last.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Johnson,
You know, I just wanted to say, no, just yes, yeah, yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
No.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Whatever, yes, this whole display was a complete embarrassment to the city of Richmond. I'm sorry.
and Mayor Butt.
No.
The motion passes with Councilmember Martinez and Mayor Butt voting no.
Okay, now let's move on to items I1 and I2. And what I was about to say is that Councilmember Bates agreed we could take these together if nobody objects. Does anybody object to taking these together? They're both simply giving direction to staff to work on some ordinances. So do you want to introduce your part of it, Councilmember Bates?
Well, I don't
Or
think
either
it
one,
needs
both.
much. Well, I don't think it requires much introduction. We've experienced some terrible situations during the 4th of July and throughout the year with fireworks and also these automobiles that are spinning around our neighborhood. It's a no-brainer. We've got to get that under control, and we got to make our communities safer. So I think all of us were overwhelmed with telephone calls, emails with complaints. The police was just oversaturated. So I just make a motion that we direct the staff to proceed and come back with a strong and stiff penalty as legally possible.
Okay,
To
is there a
curtail
second?
this activity.
Is there a second? Well, I'll second it. And I will add that with respect to fireworks, I attended a Zoom statewide discussion of this last week. And it involved not totally, but primarily police chiefs and fire chiefs from cities around the state. And a lot of good ideas came out of it. I shared them all with staff. You know, a couple of them, well, one of them that we've already talked about is adding the social host provision to our ordinance. Another one is raising the fines. I know the city of Oxnard said they've raised their fines to $3,000 for the first violation and $5,000 for the second. And then, you know, they also talked about how they use drones, and they simply pinpoint they've got some software. They simply pinpoint the property where the fireworks are being ignited, and they send them a citation. They don't even, you know, nobody even shows up at the property from the police department or the fire department. And, you know, a lot of other good ideas. So I expect our staff to be working on both of these. So with that, let's take a vote.
We have speakers. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor?
question, Mr. Mayor.
What? Councilmember Jimenez, you had a question?
Yeah, but the city attorney also she just
Okay,
raised her hand.
city attorney.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your item, as you know, was initially on for June 15th. And at that point, you had requested that staff return by the end of July. It has been continued a number of times, and we're now here toward the end of July. I am going to request that staff come back to you by the end of September. There's some chance we could come a little earlier than the end of September, but my request is to give us to the end of September to get this back to council.
That's fine. Councilmember Bates, you were the maker of the motion. Do you agree with that?
Oh, sure, that's no problem. I would just hope that you put a priority on the automobiles spinning, because there's not going to be another, I don't suspect, fireworks until next July, but move the priority on the automobiles because they're continuous, and get that as soon as possible back to us.
So the automobile item didn't have a turnaround, and I can say this, I haven't asked how long that will take. We will do our best to get it back to you by the end of September. Council member.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions from council members? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I got a, sorry.
Okay. Well, Councilmember Jimenez, you go ahead, and then Councilmember Willis.
Yeah, so I have two things. One is you make a payment like an hour for people to say if there is some fireworks. Do you have any data how many people were cited, or like how much money did you pay for it, and what was the result of that initiative that you created?
Who you
Mr.
directing
Mayor,
the question?
it's for Mr. Mayor question.
To whom are you addressing the question?
Let the police chief respond to the activities. They have the records and the statistics.
No, it's not the records and statistics. It's the result of the program. How many people were able to say to participate in that program or in that award that the mayor, the office of the mayor created?
We're not writing the ordinance tonight. I suggest you talk to the city attorney's office, and
No, it's not about the ordinance. It's about a program that you created. So I just wanted to hear from you if you have any success with that program. That would be great to know. Okay, so it seems that you don't have that information. So my other thing is that I think this is important to address fireworks and the donuts. District 6 residents have been complaining about that. I think this is an issue. I would like to also add that we will need some kind of innovative also ideas, like in my campaign I suggested the bike pack for the fireworks, and also creating education so we can address that. And I think this is something that the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force has been talking about. So I would like if the city staff and the Reimagining can talk about this. And also for the donuts, I think looking at there is going to be a plan, like the safety road plan that some consultants are doing for the city. And so thinking about what are the infrastructure that also is going to prevent, because I think what is needed here as well is not only to go after the fact and trying to punish people, but also be in the forefront is how we are trying to avoid that this kind of cure. And in many places, there are some really innovative proposals to really to put the infrastructure in the streets that can stop, like for instance, the donuts. So I would like also the staff to look into that as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
Yes, we
I
not
think
only
it was
have.
Melvin, excuse me, I'm sorry.
May I proceed?
Go ahead.
Okay. We have actually more problems than people doing donuts. We have senior citizens speeding through down roadways. So it's a matter of the entire community not not respecting the rules and regulations that we have for the safety of everyone. And knowing that, I would suggest that we see about a program of putting speed bumps, at intersections, and along roads where there is a lot of speeding. But this issue of cars, there is a car culture who are proud of the machines that they make. And when we had an interim city manager, some of those people came to me with a suggestion to set up a place where they could do it legally with people observing and regulating, and they even had the idea of actually making it like a spectator sport where there would be stands where people could watch safely, and so that they could regulate who goes out and does this, and they saw it as a moneymaker for the city of Richmond. Right now, I know that some of them go while the speedway was closed, they would go up to the Sonoma Raceway and use their track to do what they're doing on the streets here. But if they don't have an outlet, then we're basically just saying, do it wherever you can. And I think that, excuse me, let me finish. And so now is the time to discuss this, because we're going to have staff go back and come up with something. And instead of just letting staff go without some ideas, I think we're doing them a disservice. So I think this is the time to have a robust conversation and to share whatever ideas that we have.
Well, I think it's a great idea to have a sideshow park. I suggest you put it on the agenda for an upcoming meeting, and let's discuss it.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Willis.
The only thing I want to say is that I heard a couple of motions and alterations, and I wanted to make sure we did not miss public comment on the items. That's all.
No, we're gonna do public comment.
Yeah, and Mayor, just to make things clear, I think it's better if council, if staff review the item or the possibility.
I'm suggesting that you put an item on the agenda to direct staff to develop a sideshow park in Richmond.
And I'm suggesting that staff consider that as an option when they look at how to approach sideshows.
Well, this is Councilor Bates' item, and he was looking at enforcement, not alternatives. So it's if you want to, do you want to add that to your motion, Councilmember Bates, that we direct staff to look at the possibility?
No.
Okay.
I can't understand. You got people that are violating the law left and right, shooting off fireworks, disturbing the whole community. You got these idiots driving around in the middle of the street, dangerous to themselves and to the neighbors. And now you want to circumvent that? No. You put it.
They're not incompatible. They are not incompatible. And what I'm trying to do is to provide a way for people to do things.
So Councilor Martin,
you put your item on separate of mine. I don't want to associate with mine.
So I suggest you put that item on an upcoming agenda. Okay, Councilmember Johnson.
So, just really quickly, actually in the reparations package that passed unanimously by this council, there was a piece in there about sideshows, because some cities are doing some very interesting things. And Councilman Bates, I'm not trying to mix my stuff with your stuff. I understand your position. I just wanted to put that out there that, we did direct staff to look at other ways to deal with sideshows. And then also I want to make sure that we're not that we also better define what a sideshow is, because doing donuts and fishtailing are an aspect of a sideshow, but they're not the complete sideshow. A sideshow can be anything from a gathering of cars, not doing any type of high performance or anything like that. So let's make sure that we know what we're talking about and what we're targeting before we just start targeting things. The second piece was, we already voted to have staff bring back an alternative that will kind of help that will reach around some of the illegalities and some of the other underbellies of the sideshows and of that history and culture. And then the second piece on the fireworks, I most definitely understand, especially when it comes to the PTSD and our veterans. Some individuals have even had their homes catch on fire. I guess my apprehension comes in when we're cracking down on the fireworks users and not the fireworks distributors. It kind of reminds me of like crack, like cracking down on, like coming down hard on crack users versus distributors. I'm hoping that we aren't looking to give 12 and 13-year-old kids $3,000 fines, and that we're more so looking to find out where they purchased those and cutting off that stream. So that way we can get to the larger context instead of playing middle school principal and acting like we're stopping a real fight from happening. Because sending out a bunch of fines to poor people is setting ourselves up to have a bunch of unpaid fines. So I just want to make sure that we're defining the problem and that we actually know what we're talking about as we define the problem. And then as we go about defining the problem and finding solutions to how we remedy these issues, that they actually like come from like real genuine places of wanting to end these practices from happening, and not from this middle school like administrator sticking my chest out trying to show everybody that I'm doing something because I'm getting a bunch of calls and emails, but actually get into the root causes of these issues. And I understand that sideshows may be outside of the purview of some generations, but this is something that has been taking place in the Bay Area since the late 70s, early 80s. So we need to be really like conscious of how we approach that situation. And fireworks, the country have been telling people to celebrate this country's independence with fireworks since 1776. So let's be conscious of some of these trends that we're trying to reverse overnight and how we go about reversing these trends, because especially with the fireworks piece, it's going to take a lot of education, because as long as this country's been in existence, that's as long as fireworks has been told to use to celebrate the existence of this country on its birthday. So just wanted to bring all of that to the forefront, so that way we're having a more robust conversation about these topics, and they're not just as cut and dry and black and white as, you know, some people want to make it seem. I know as council members, it's our duty to respond to the public, but it's also our duty to lead the public and make sure that we're elevating the level of public debate and comment and not feeding, once again, into the frenzy.
Okay, thank you. So are there public speakers?
Yes. Yes, will we please call the public speakers?
Sure, I have 7 at the moment. I have Madeline Law, Jan Mignoni, Randy Joseph, Lisa Johnson, Naomi Williams, Tarnell Abbott, and Mike Parker. I'll start with Madeline Law. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can start when you're ready.
Good evening again. This is Madeline Law, live in Park Plaza, and I am also a member of the Neighbors for Safer Communities. I just wanted to say a little bit about the use of illegal fireworks. And we all know this is an issue that occurs mostly on the 4th of July, but I hear fireworks throughout the whole year. I just think that we need to really take a look at who's using them, how they're being used. And I agree with council that we need to make it hard for people to indulge in using fireworks. You know, we've been fortunate, I assume,
for the past few years that we hadn't had any tragedies or real tragedies with the use of fireworks. But I am one that I think we need to impose fines that will discourage repeat offenders. And not only should we be imposing the fines on the users, but the residents, the people that own the property that are allowing this to happen, as well as the observers. You know, I understand, I live in a court, and back in the day, we used to fire off firecrackers or whatever, but it needs to be awareness made, especially with the drought going on, that one firecracker can destroy a whole block of housing. We just saw that happen here recently in Antioch, matter of fact. So I think we need to impose significant fines and make sure that, you know, we're discouraging folks to use fireworks. And if you love
Time has
Richmond.
expired. Thank you. The next speaker is Jan Mignon. Jan, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Good evening, all. I'm Jan Mignon, born and raised in the city of Richmond, so I've seen a lot go on in this city and many over the years. Fireworks don't happen in Richmond just around the 4th of July. They started this year in April. Every night, somebody was shooting off fireworks. My issue is PTSD and animals and the, you know, issues that come with all of that. I don't want to hear fireworks every night. I can tune them out. My dog cannot. I think you need to give the police some teeth and some ordinances so that they can do their job and find people. You have to figure $3,000 fine must be nothing, because the pictures that I saw at Richard Borman Park, they must have spent 5-10 grand on what they were shooting out there. These people are spending huge amounts of money on that. And regarding sideshows, when cars get together, that's called a car show, not a sideshow. We have many people in this city that are car connoisseurs and have car shows all the time. We're hoping to start doing them up at Hilltop with Prologis. But there has to be some kind of rules about breaking somebody's window or killing somebody from driving in a circle and they get hit. It's a car accident. Most of the people that drive in Richmond don't follow the rules and don't care about the rules. We've had numerous hit and runs in the north and east, and no one has ever, you know, they hit them and run because they don't have insurance. They don't care. Those of us who have property and who care about what happens to our credit rate, the credit reference and all that stuff, they care what's going on. You have to care about what's going on. If you don't care about the city, why should we have any rules here? Let's just give them all up. No traffic signs, nothing. Let's just move on. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Randy Joseph. Randy, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, my name is Randy Joseph. I'm a Richmond resident, and Councilmember Johnson put the words right out of my mouth. We're too busy trying to criminalize and find 13 and 14-year-old kids to find ways to criminalize them, but we're not asking why they're doing fireworks or giving kids alternatives to things to have fun so they won't be doing illegal fireworks. This is the big problem with all this. We want to criminalize where we've done this with everything. We've criminalized for war on drugs. Look what a great job that's done. But we can criminalize, but we never get to the root causes of why people are doing things and find different alternatives and not criminalize young people that's going to be affected, and finding different ways and models to do this. I was going to speak on the thing that was passed by Councilmember Johnson, how they're looking into finding alternatives to sideshows to put different places. That's something that we need to do, but we also need to look at account of I don't understand how the mayor could put up $2,500 to put fines on people to get them arrested and prosecuted for sideshows, but he can't put that money aside to put on events for city people so they can have fun and find different legal ways to have fun and bring communities together. That's when we need to look at to stop fireworks and to make sideshows safe and convenient. Find alternatives for youth and other people that have fun in the community and in the neighborhood so they can do things safely and with an order. Because yes, fireworks at all times of night is not things. It's not healthy for people, and I understand that. But let's work on ways to find alternatives instead of criminalizing and finding people with money that they can't pay for to pay back. Tell me how 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, when they get busted, they're going to pay back a $3,000 fine. Tell me how that's going to be possible. So try to sit there instead of doing that. Tell the city managers to find alternative ways to end to have fun in the city. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I emailed you earlier my comprehensive comments. This is not 12, 13, and 14-year-olds violating fireworks and sideshows. Let's be reasonable here. They don't even drive. I'm respectfully requesting that all of you please pass meaningful legislation to the city's fireworks ordinance and a new sideshow ordinance that will protect the community's public health and safety, but also allow RPD to have a realistic chance to effectively address what the community is begging to be done. The Contra Costa County fireworks ordinance is meaningless. They are willing to pay minuscule fines when they spend thousands on fireworks. To appropriately address this, you have to have stronger consequences for people who purchase and or light fireworks, as well as serve as a lookout and or block RPD and RFD access with their vehicle body or any type of physical barrier, such as happened this July 4th. Legislation also needs to be significantly strengthened to include serious consequences for those who participate in certain activities, and the police have to have the ability to prosecute after the fact. Chief French spoke to this. San Jose and Oakland have both implemented significant deterrents for sideshows, including fines and jail, which I don't condone. I think community service is a much better alternative, as well as physical barriers. But the physical barriers alone will not solve this crisis. Councilmember Martinez, whose land are you identifying to volunteer for this course? Do you not think that some house or resident or business is going to object to that? And doesn't it violate the noise ordinance? Mayor Demlis, Vice Mayor Demlis, if a kid gets seriously injured or killed from an illegal firework or sideshow, or someone's house burns down, are you going to be the one telling their parent or the property owner that it was more important to condone illegal behavior to appease a few people? This is ridiculous. You passed $10,000 fines for mom and pop landlords, but you don't want any consequences here.
Your time has expired. Thank you. The next speaker is Naomi Williams. Naomi, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh. Okay. Oh, I'm screwed up. I'm trying to take him.
You can start, Naomi.
Okay. You talking about finding land for car shows, but you can't find land for homeless. I'm wondering how that's gonna work. And I want to say first, make a law, put up signs first all over Richmond about the fireworks. I belong to the Pullman. I live on the south side, and I'm a member of the Richmond Neighbors Safety Committee. So there's so many things you can think about doing, but what can we actually do? You know you can't give tickets without signs, period. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Tarnell Abbott. Tarnell, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Tarnell Abbott. I've lived in Richmond for 34 years. I also live on the south side. And we do get a lot of fireworks here. It's mostly around the 4th of July, but not only. I hate fireworks. I hate cars. And I wish it were a simple thing, but it's not a simple thing. And I really want to thank Councilmember Johnson for his statements. I think it was very thoughtful and reasonable, and pretty much sums up what a lot of what I think. And it has to do with understanding that when people really don't have anything to do, when they have no options for fun, when they have no options for even facing a really happy, decent life, when they don't own property, they're going to use what they can get their hands on and do what they do. And it's a much more complicated thing. Look, I hate the fireworks, okay? I have to hold my little dog because she's all freaked out by them. It's not, they do need to be got under control. But I think if you ask the chief, she's going to tell you the same thing. It's not that easy to get it under control. And the sideshows, well, that's kind of really a different thing. And I don't think you should have combined them into one motion. I think they all need more thought. But I do thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for your words. You did a really good job. That's it.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mike Parker. Mike, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Thank you, Mike Parker. Well, we have a very serious problem here because fireworks are dangerous. They're not just simply fun. They present fire danger. They present danger for people who have to stay up all night because their kids can't sleep or their animals can't sleep and then have to go to work the next day or have to drive with no sleep. There's serious problems here, but we know from experience that more policing isn't going to solve this problem. Having heavier fines isn't going to solve this problem. At best, what will happen is if we have heavier fines and we manage to stamp out fireworks, we just simply move the same young people who are looking for things to do into some other area of illegality, and we'll be passing more laws about what they can't do and can't do. So I'm all for the city council looking and seeing at ways that it can, having the staff find ways to limit fireworks and to limit sideshows. But I think the primary thing the staff has to be doing is looking for alternatives to this. Alternatives won't solve it all completely, but we know that just more police enforcement, as Chief French has told us, isn't going to solve it either. You can't possibly control something like this with police. If there isn't popular support for the thing where people don't come out and defend the perpetrators against the police, then you're not going to fix that with a law. You're going to have to fix that by community education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Marina Brown. Marina, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Good evening to Mayor Abbott, the City Council, and staff. This is a real major concern here in North Richmond. North Richmond was lit up way before the 4th of July and therefore after. What was really sad was there was a family who pleaded, and these were not 13-year-olds or any teenagers. These were adults that hosted a party or a 4th of July gathering, and it was over 100 people. And they got into the intersection of Willard and Leo Avenue. We videotaped the whole incident. The young father came out and pleaded with this group of people to stop setting off this half of dynamite explosion that they did, because he had just had twins. The sounds of what was going on traumatized those poor little infant children. Pleaded with them. You know, they stopped for 2 minutes, laughed about it, and came back and they set it off, and it was even worse. It was like a combat war zone. So if you have education, you have awareness, you have some simple procedures to deal with this illegal activity that's a great moneymaker, I suggest you put it together, you bring it to this community, and you deal with it. And stop traumatizing us with these little bitty Band-Aid solutions that you have for us. This is a problem. And we're suffering here in this, quote, marginalized, unresourced, underserved community. that gets left behind. And so I think it's you, Councilman Jimenez, you always have a solution. Would you please bring it forth to address and deal with the issues? Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more public speakers.
Okay, any final comments from council members? Seems like I saw a hand up somewhere. Councilmember Jimenez?
Yeah, I just wanted to say if you will be inclined to add that some of the ideas that have been discussed here, just know, so it's not just going to penalize people after the things had happened, because we had known that a lot of these things are not, it's not one solution. It's not just putting law and order. We have heard from Visa French, Chief Visa French, I'm sorry, that it's difficult. She said like the other time, even with a lot of police, we won't be able to do that. And I think like what we want also is not just going and act after the fact. We want to make sure that we take innovative alternatives that is prevent, because prevention is more useful in many situations than actually just going after the fact, because then we don't prevent that a house is burned. We don't prevent that a kid will get hit by a car. So I want to see if you and the two people who make these items are willing to consider also that the staff looks at alternatives in the prevention side that allow us to move forward with other ideas to do that. And the reason why I asked you, Mayor, about the program is that you give some money. And I wanted to, like, we deserve to know the data and see if that is something that has worked or not. And I think like we deserve to have other alternatives that really are helping our community in this and getting resolved. And as many people said, this is not an easy situation, and there is no just one solution to these issues and problems.
Okay, other council members?
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Bates.
I never realized that we would have members of the council protecting individuals who are terrorizing our community. These are law violators. I don't know how else you can put it. So what you're saying is the public have no right to demand that these fireworks and these sideshows discontinue in that neighborhood. So it's amazing to me, having been in law enforcement for 35 years thereabout, that all of a sudden the culprits and the violators are being protected more than the citizens in the community. These are people who voted for us, put you in office, and now there's a tendency to turn your back on them. And lastly, I'd like for the police chief, if she's here, I think I saw her, to come forward and educate, hopefully, this council, the seriousness of this problem, because I don't think many of you get it. And that's my own personal opinion. You rather protect the individuals who are culprits and doing all this damage than the citizenry that reside in this community. So is the chief available, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Is police chief here?
Could we
I don't think she's on.
just articulate how much of a problem this is. And I never thought this would be a controversial issue, but it seemed like it is.
Is your hand still up, Councilmember Martinez? If it is,
Let's
unmute.
get the chief before.
Yes.
Well, I asked if she was here. I don't see her jumping in.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
there she is. Okay, go ahead, Chief.
My apologies, I'm not in my office. But I do have some stats in terms of reckless driving and the fireworks calls. Over just this year to date, we've had 47 individual reports of sideshow activity. The days that mostly it occurs are Saturdays and Sundays, and across the city. So it's not just one beat, it's across the city. In addition to the sideshows, we've had numerous calls of reckless driving. We've had 580 calls of reckless driving around the city to date. And so that's, again, across the city. Most of the days are Saturdays and Sundays. Beat 3, which is our southern area, has the most calls. And Beat 9, which is the northern district, has the lowest amount of calls for the reckless driving. But it's a problem across the city. Additionally, for fireworks, we've had let's see, 1,226 fireworks calls just this year. And again, I have the dates of the days and times that the activity is greater than the other days and times. But that's just to give you a kind of overview of what the activity is here in our city just this year alone.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Martinez.
yes, I think one of the major problems we have here is addressing two very, very different issues with only one solution that the makers of the item have in mind, and that is punishment. What we actually need to be looking at is solutions other than punishment. And I think that to consider people who are looking for solutions as defenders is short-sighted. I can understand how someone whose livelihood was a parole officer only has one solution. But we are representative of the community, and we need to look for solutions. I mean, if someone is tempted to rob a store because he has no money, wouldn't a better solution be to get him trained so he can get a job, as opposed to just make the punishment greater so that we can keep him in jail longer once he commits a crime? I think that's short-sighted. We need to look forward. We need to look at our community as a community that wants to do good, but needs help in figuring out how to do it properly. And as I said before, I've witnessed senior citizens speeding down Carlson at 50, 60 miles per hour. And yet no one says anything about it. So and that is as reckless, if not more so, than someone doing a sideshow. It's just not as apparent. So we have a lot of scofflaws and education and venues for them to do whatever it is they need to do is what needs to be done. Maybe tougher laws are necessary, but I think all options need to be considered, and to assume that we're protecting anyone because we want alternatives is a false. It's a lack of imagination.
Councilmember Johnson, is your hand up?
Yes, it is. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to apologize for having my camera off. I have some distracting images taking place in the background that I'm trying to mitigate. I just wanted to clarify for my colleagues my statement, because as I said, we most definitely want to adhere and take care of some of the concerns that were displayed by some of the callers. And we most definitely want to, stop all of the reckless driving and individuals from being hurt, whether it be from gun violence or from fireworks. But I believe what I'm asking, at least, what I can speak for myself, is that we look at the entirety of the issue and not try to paint it with a broad brush. We are in the process of directing staff to come back with an ordinance. And I'm under the impression, someone correct me if I'm wrong, that this is the time where we bring up our opinions and where we bring up the different positions, so that way we can take a holistic approach as the staff goes into writing these ordinances. We most definitely want to equip our police department with all of the necessary tools it takes to mitigate the danger, but at the same time, we're also trying to mitigate unintended consequences that may also come as a result of these ordinances. So I just wanted to present that point of clarification for my colleagues, that we are not trying to defend individuals who are terrorizing our community. What we are trying to defend are individuals who are byproducts of the culture. And so with that, I do hope that we can move forward in a more holistic manner and not just painting each issue, whether it be fireworks or sideshows, with broad strokes.
Okay, let me suggest this. These two items are about strengthening our ordinances. Both donuts and sideshows, as well as fireworks, are totally illegal in Richmond right now. So one of the problems we have is that there are constraints that the police have in terms of trying to enforce them. A lot of other cities have looked at this and have already decided to give the police more tools to enforce ordinances that already exist. And you can vote that up or vote it down. But I think if you guys want to pursue other things, I think that's fine. In this statewide seminar I went to last week, there was discussion about public service announcements, education. There are things that other people are doing, and I don't have any problem with that. I think that it's maybe it's two parts to the same objective. One part is making sure that if the police, or for that matter, the fire department, has to enforce our existing laws, we want to make it easier for them to do it. And if you all want to look at other things, that you've talked about, I think that's fine. But I think you need to keep them separate. And I think you can, this thing about the ordinances, you can either vote it up or vote it down, but you're certainly welcome to put something else on the agenda to deal with the objectives you have. Councilmember Willis, is your hand up?
Yeah, I just briefly wanted to add to the discussion, the folks who brought it up, even though we've already had a presentation on this by Vice Mayor Johnson, but however this vote goes, we should have something additionally agendized to talk about other ways and other factors that go into the reason that people want to blow up fireworks or do the sideshows. Now, since the beginning of the year, I've been hearing fireworks go off, starting from New Year's and then picking back up in April, and it feels like it's happened right next to my ear, to the point where my companion doesn't even want to stay with me over the 4th. So I definitely get that something needs to be done. My only thing to contribute though is that we can add these enforcement measures, but I don't think that's ultimately going to solve the problem at hand. I think it's only going to create a situation where people are going to get more creative in how they go about sending off and how not to get caught, rather than going to the root causes of the issues on why are you here in the middle of the street blowing stuff up as opposed to going to your local firework event. And also just need to realize that since the pandemic started, a lot of this actually got exacerbated from people having to stay home and the kind of trauma that brings up and the bad decisions that come from that. I mean, not everybody out there in the city is like us where we're trying to make the rules and have everything together. A lot of folks are experiencing trauma. A lot of people feel like they don't have anybody that gives a damn about them. So why should they have any respect for the community? So somewhere where we are looking at holistic approach, education, getting people to care more about the community and the impact that's happening on their neighbors is going to be important, because I don't believe somebody struggling with their own trauma who feels isolated with it is going to take other people into consideration if we're not figuring out what is traumatizing people. We are a poor community. There are thousands of struggling people in this community making decisions based on that trauma and based on that struggle. Not all of them right, but they're still dealing with it. So if we want folks to respect our community, having those holistic approaches, doing education is going to be one of those important ways too. To me, we could do this, but finding people isn't really going to make much of a difference. I just feel like it's going to make people get more creative and not getting caught. So that's all I wanted to contribute to this.
Okay, we already did public speakers, right? Okay, so let's call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Same.
pardon me?
She said she abstained.
Okay.
I'm
Vice Mayor-
sorry, could we
Vice
have
Mayor
a
Jo-
repeat of the motion, please, Mr. Mayor?
The motion, well, it's just the way it's written. The motion was to direct staff to draft amendments that strengthens the city's ability to enforce the fireworks ordinance, and also draft an ordinance to establish stronger penalties to deter and prevent unauthorized auto sideshows in Richmond.
So there isn't any particular amount of the penalties that is being suggested?
No.
Thank you.
And both ordinances drafts are due at the end of September. And if possible, the auto ordinance should be done as soon as possible. Okay, Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Yes.
and Mayor Butt.
Yes.
Motion passes with Councilmember Jimenez abstaining.
So the next item is item I3. Would you read that item, please, Madam Clerk?
Yes, item I3 is to receive a report describing the history and challenges associated with the city's alternative dispute resolution, the ADR program, and direct staff to end the ADR program and return the city to the standard statutory system for workers' compensation claims.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Laura Marquez, the risk manager. And I'm waiting to see if KCRT can put up the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to give just a brief presentation on the workers' comp ADR program. So we can go to the next slide. So the ADR program started in January of 2017 with both police and fire, with the goal of providing expedited medical care, resulting in employees getting the care they need for workers' comp claims and able to return to work quickly. But unfortunately, this hasn't happened. Next slide. In the ADR program, We have a nurse case manager that's able to authorize requests for treatments that would normally go through a really lengthy approval process. So the program also had an assigned mediator to help work through disputes, and if they were not resolved, an agreed list of arbitrators were used. The hope was that if employees received quicker treatment, they'd be able to heal faster and return to work faster. And then due to the streamlined process, we were hopeful that attorneys would be used less and would reduce legal cost. Next slide. So the outcome of the program did result in faster authorization of medical treatment. However, employees have not returned to work faster. And according to the actuarial report that is in the staff report, on pages 6 through 9, you'll see that the average missed days in the program year 1 went down, which is what we were wanting. However, in years 2 through 4, the number of days missed from work increased. You'll also notice in the actuarial report on page 11, at the bottom of table 6, that the program resulted in an overall increase in cost of $4,254 per member. And then as a side note, the police department withdrew from the ADR program, which ended in April of this year. And then the next slide. So in conclusion, the program has not resulted in the desired outcome that we had hoped. In fact, the program is costing the city additional money. So we're recommending that we end the ADR program with the fire department. We'll return to the statutory system and employees will still receive all the benefits that they're entitled to. And we'll also continue to streamline the process to provide treatment quickly and get employees back to work as quickly as possible. However, we are asking City Council's direction to end this program. And that is all.
Well, that was short and sweet. Are there any questions from council members? I don't see any. Are there public speakers?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
had one question. So the fire department is the only one that is continuing to be in this ADR program. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was the justification for the police to drop out of it?
We've had issues with the program, just a lot of disputes back and forth on doctors, attorneys. So then they determined they wanted to pull out of it. And the program wasn't giving any savings.
And what do you calculate the savings be with the fire department being eliminated from the program?
The savings were based on, so we had the actuary looked at everything from missed days of work, the legal cost, medical cost, and also overtime.
And I assume the fire department is here to speak as a reason why we should continue the program?
I'm not sure.
Well, Madam Clerk, do we have fire personnel speaking as it relates to continue the program?
Yes, we do see Richmond firefighters.
Okay.
Their hands raised.
Well, I'll wait for them to make that presentation.
Okay, any other questions from council members? Okay, let's call public speakers.
Okay, we'll go with Richmond firefighters. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Good evening. My name is Luis Padilla, President, Richmond Firefighters Local 188. Obviously, I wanted to call in about this ADR program, and I absolutely disagree with Ms. Marquez and her report. It's not complete. It's incomplete. There's a lot of information missing. Let me start by saying it's well within the city's right to cancel this program. We understand that. But the question is why? This is a cost savings program. Why does it work in other cities and not Richmond? Why does it work in a big city like San Francisco with thousands of employees and not in Richmond? We feel the city is getting bad advice and they're not doing their due diligence. I wish the police union was here to answer for their reason for leaving. The lawyers and the insurance company like Ames knows this is cutting into their business. Of course, they're not going to like it, and the city is listening to their advice. This program is designated to eliminate red tape and reduce overtime. It's confusing to me why the city is trying to kill this program. I would like the city council to request the data of the overall cost after this program is terminated. What will be the cost when someone sprains a knee, the claim is denied like they're going to do, like it's always happened, and the employee is off for a year because they had to wait for the approvals? The lawyer fees are going to cost the city a hell of a lot more than they do now. Lastly, I'd like to sincerely thank council members Bates, Martinez, McLaughlin, and Jimenez for meeting with us and at least allowing us a chance to explain the advantages of this program. We appreciate you hearing us out, but ultimately, I think this program stopped working because the city kept denying claims. It went against their own advice from their advisors, from the ombudsman, from the program people who are designed to be the arbitrator or the middle people. They just kept going against them. That's why it stopped working. That's all I have to say right now, but I'll stay on for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Have another Richmond firefighters. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
My name is Jason Flaum, Secretary Treasurer, Richmond Firefighters Local 188. For the last year and a half, I've been the chair for the joint committee for this ADR. We're required to meet at least quarterly, and we were meeting every 2 months to make sure the program moves smoothly. Coincidentally, since Emil Camello has become the HR director, he refused to meet and has been sabotaging this program. To counter Ms. Marquez, the program saved in the first 3 years nearly $800,000 over historical average of 5 years before. Only this last period of Mr. Camello's tenure has the program failed due to denying all claims, litigating all claims, dragging out and expanding the cost of every claim by fighting it. And please audit the risk manager that none of these claims that they have fought, they've been successful in challenging. The employee has always won their case. And please audit how much money is spent on the legal cost of these private counsel that are fighting these lost cause claims, presumptive claims that are state law that are assumed that if a firefighter gets cancer, heart disease, PTSD, etc., is a presumed industrial injury. This program was sabotaged from the start, and I'd also asked the city attorney to look into the risk manager, Mr. Camello, not following the terms of the contract that we signed on to. He was recently in April fired the independent administrator and tried to remove the ombuds person of the program that was the liaison between risk management and the firefighters. Again, we've reached out to San Francisco to Ms. Marquez to try to see how this program works for them, but they've refused. Ask some questions.
Your time has expired. Thank you. There are no more public speakers.
Okay, is there a motion?
Well, there's conflicting information. Unfortunately, I didn't get my packet. I tried to go online and read the appendix, but I wasn't successful. At this point, I'm unclear completely the benefits of the city versus the negativity toward the city. And I don't know if that information, the other councilmen will receive the information in comparison. So I'm a little bit unprepared right now to take a position until I see black and white. What are some of the cost savings and the benefits, the positive and the negativity toward this elimination of this program? I'd also like to hear from the police with respect to their reaction and response to it.
Chief French, do you want to weigh in on this or not?
Or maybe a Neil or someone can articulate a little bit clearer for my benefit. Maybe other council members don't need it, but for me, I need that information.
Mayor, but City Council, this is a union issue, not for the police department to answer.
Well,
Mr. Mayor?
okay. Well, that was short and sweet, Chief. Thank you.
Councilor Martinez? And then Jimenez?
Yes, as the fire union representative Padilla said, many council members met with the fire department to get an idea of what was at stake here, and we asked a lot of hard questions. And I also want to establish the fact that having conversations with unions, having conversations with departments is not negotiations, as you so like to characterize them. They are information gathering. And the information that I gathered, and this also came from staff, was that there was an exorbitant amount of people off duty from injury. But we also learned that the union cleaned up a lot of that misuse of sick leave, and so to me it shows that the union is trying to do the right thing, and that they have the capability of doing the right thing. And they also wanted, they were also willing to negotiate particulars which might make the current process more amenable to the city. Now, I'm not going to tell you what those are because I'm not a negotiator, but I will tell you that there was a discussion about certain concessions that would be considered. And I would suggest that well, I would move that the staff continue negotiations with the fire union on this issue.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Jimenez, and you want to speak, Councilmember Jimenez?
Yeah, and I wanted to say what I am seconding that, because I not only have been talking to the unions, but also with some firefighters and the staff. And one of the things that I wanted to read it because I just wanted to make sure I am conveying the right thing. And one of the things that some of the firefighters said is that the state workers home program is old, pit size against each other, and cost cities ton of money and delays workers for getting treatment and diagnosis. And I hear that there was an analysis of how much we'll save, and the staff presented us with an analysis and got saying no, it's no saving. But then I heard from other that it was saving $400,000 per year. So I think like we need to kind of like revise that. And the other thing that I think like I got more interested was particular experiences of people with the old system, the statutory system that the state has. And this is one of the stories, like under that system at the state, I hurt my knee while I was working as a firefighter in the Richmond department, and got to the city doctor. Doctor said, takes this pill for 4 months and come back. It doesn't get better. So it didn't get better. So I go back. Doctor orders an X-ray and it looks okay. More time off without improvement. I asked for an MRI and it gets denied. Finally, after mere time, I get the MRI and it shows a tear. So I wait for surgery and on with a lawyer now instead of just getting an MRI fast and getting treated and back to work. So I think like these are the things that I gather, and I just want to make sure that we got the best scenario, the best program that we have. And it seems for some of these experiences that it doesn't work. And some others said like it doesn't work because the city doesn't believe that it works. But maybe it's time to get the city in conversation with the fire department and the firefighters to see what we can get, what we can go and create and improve if we need to improve.
Councilmember Willis.
Yes, I wanted to see if I could. I see two people who raised their hands related to Councilmember Bates's previous questions. I wanted to see if it'd be okay if Luis Padilla could address Councilmember Bates's questions, and to see if it's okay for Ben Terrio as the RPOA president to speak as to why they left the program, if you're okay with that.
I will allow that if they're present and want to respond.
I see their hands raised, so.
I can't see them.
I'm muting Luis Padilla.
Good evening, again. Luis Padilla, President Richmond Firefighters Local 188. I just want to reiterate how this program, as opposed to the statutory system, right now there's a program in place that when somebody gets injured, I mean, this is part of the Fire Ops 101 that we're going to offer later this year, but people have to understand that firefighters don't fight fires in clean, safe environments. It's a dangerous environment. So you're going to have knee sprains, you're going to have ankle sprains, you're going to have those things. So what better program to have something set up where somebody gets hurt, you get their care, you get them back to work. We all know that overtime is crazy right now. Why make matters worse? The statutory system is going to force firefighters to lawyer up out the gate. And it's going to be a problem. It's going to be cost. Overruns for the city. The city staff has to work with us on this issue. I wanted an opportunity, and I'm glad he chimed on, but I'd like the Police Officers Association president to speak on why they left the program as well, because it'd be interesting. That's all I have to say. I will stay on for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for him? Otherwise, let's go to, is Ben Terrio here?
Yes, I will unmute him right now.
Okay.
Good evening,
Ben?
Council. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Terrio, President of Richmond Police Officers Association. The main reasons that we left the carve out basically have to do with not the current, not the current HR director or acting deputy city manager or the current risk manager, but from the previous risk manager, essentially, co-opted the program and put doctors in there that were not agreed upon through the contract that we had all agreed upon. So what then happened after that is that essentially when people were injured, officers were injured, they kept getting the same doctors every single time instead of being able to choose and pick the doctors from a certified list. The previous risk manager had threw extra doctors on there that had not been approved by the process. We thought it was an unfair process and the city wasn't upholding its end of the bargain. And so we opted to leave the program. And then basically to just back up what Luis Padilla was saying, is essentially it's what's going to happen going forward with the police officers. You're going to see as police officers get hurt, they're just going to lawyer up and they're going to cost the city a lot of money in legal fights that are unnecessary because of an incompetent third-party administrator. Really is one of the main points, and unwillingness to really get people quickly back into working, and that's the main problem. Is we want to get people back to work so they're not eating up huge amounts of sick time, and then consequently are not eating up huge amounts of overtime, because that's what you have to do to backfill shifts, and it's just not happening. And this current system is not working. The statutory system isn't the best either. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for anyone, but that's why we left the program. The previous administration, if you will, wasn't upholding their end of the bargain, and that kind of was a catastrophic collapse onto the current HR administration, if you will. And too many things had gone off the track by that point, and that's why we opted to leave in the beginning of this year.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second on the floor. I think we should call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Well, I wanted to ask
Oh,
one
I'm sorry.
last
Go ahead,
question.
Councilmember Bates.
Yeah. We haven't heard from Anil. Give us a statistic in terms of how many police is on disability, how many on fire disability, and why are you recommending that we proceed with this course of action?
Thank you, Councilmember Bates. Anil Comello, Interim Deputy City Manager and former HR Director. I just want to say, first of all, that this was a study that was done, this actual study was done about 4 years worth of data. And the actuary used a formula that was negotiated by the parties way back in 2016. An actual study of this kind is designed to determine whether the goals of the program are being met or not. Based on the study, it was very clear that there was no savings, period. So I'm not sure what data the council members are seeing, but I'm not aware of any data that is resulting in the 4 years cumulative data that shows any savings at all. Savings is resulting from the actual experience of employees. The outcomes are just not there. And as the discussion shows, the parties have been arguing about this for 4 years. Of course, the current risk manager and myself have been in our roles for less than a year. In fact, less than a year. And this dispute has been going on for a while. Both parties have lawyered up, which is contrary to the design of the program. But the parties have, I think, lawyered up partly because there's lack of trust. Also, I gave up on the new design. I should back up. When I came on board, Councilmember Bates, I made it my business to learn about the ADR program. It's new to me. I researched many alternatives. In December in particular, I spent many hours with various attorneys, friends of mine, outside, so we didn't pay for it. I talked to other HR directors who have experience in this business. And at the end of the day, realized that this was not a program as it was designed, was not in the city's best interest. But yet, I wanted to stay in the program, and in fact, wanted to redesign it because I was told at that point that the program had saved the city $700,000 over the last 4 years. It was last 3 years at that point. It turns out that was not correct. It actually has lost the city money. And so once I realized that, I decided that my recommendation to council, the best of my knowledge and information, would be to do just that, is to end the program. As to the council members' discussion about should the program be perhaps saved and redesigned, well, we did approach the firefighters and suggested different alternatives. In fact, a very well-designed program. A key part of the program, though, is to have the employees come back to work quickly. And frankly, the firefighters flatly refused. They told me, and they told the risk manager myself in multiple meetings, that they were not interested in designing a return to work program that would save the city money. And so the challenge for us is, I have no faith, frankly, and I have no hope that any negotiations that we engage in will result in any kind of savings that is meaningful and sustainable in the long run. But if that's the direction of the council, so be it. We'll do our job and engage in that process. But I can tell you that with 25 years of experience in this business, having long experience in managing human resources and risk management programs, the statutory program has the built-in safeguards. It allows both parties to check each other as the process moves along. This program, I think the only reason the firefighters union is fighting so hard to keep the program is because it actually enables increases in overtime costs, which is detrimental to the city. So I was flabbergasted a few minutes ago to hear that that there was a concern on part of the firefighters union to reduce overtime costs. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you may have.
Any other questions for Anil? I don't see any. I think it's time to vote on this. Would you call the roll, please, Madam Clerk? Councilmember Jimenez, you have something else?
Yeah, I want to, if it's okay with Councilmember Martinez, to make a change a little bit the motion, which is that direct staff to go and negotiate, like talk to the local 180 to redesign and improve the program. And just hearing what Anil was saying, and if the local 188 doesn't want to do that, so we will go to the statutory program.
Councilman Martinez, do you accept that?
Yeah, that wasn't stated clearly, but it was definitely implied. So I will accept that.
Yeah, because the intent is just to give us like the best thing that we can do, so we can like have a good program that works.
Right, and like I said, what I heard from the union was that that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to have that conversation.
Okay.
So just for the record, council members, we have had those conversations multiple times, but we'll have it again.
I realize that.
Okay.
I realize that.
Okay. And this is why if it doesn't occur, then we will go to the statutory program.
Thank you, council member. Appreciate that trust.
Okay.
Is this coming back in a certain period of time or what?
We can certainly get back to you. We'll engage in conversation with the firefighters union, and we'll get back to you in September about whether or not we can reach a negotiated program, well-designed program that is meaningful and that has likelihood of success in the future.
So as I understand the motion now, if those discussions are not successful, it doesn't mean that we automatically go to the new program. It's going to come back to the council again, right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Because, and the reason is the council has to vote to authorize staff or to direct staff to initiate the 60-day period. So only the council can get out of the program.
Okay. All right. Let's call the roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates?
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Willis?
Yes.
And Mayor Butt?
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Okay. So now we're going to back to item H15.
Yes.
Councilmember Bates, you pulled this. You have a specific question or concern you want to bring up?
Yes, I spoke to the staff and I was surprised to find that there was no bid process, and there's $100,000 maximum. And it goes to Bayhawk. And that there was no bid process, so they were just automatically giving it to Bayhawk. But what was my surprise in my investigation is that Bayhawk, according to the sources I've been speaking to, did not do the work. The work was done by another group. And my question is, if that's true, it appears from my observation that Bayhawk will get the bid and they will get a profit, and by shoving it to another company that actually did the work. And it's called Stitch Construction Company, that was apparently observed doing the work of the demolition.
This work's already been done?
It's already been done because it was an emergency. The roof was caving in. But why are we giving the money to Bayhawk when they didn't do the work? Looks like they subcontracted the work out. And you know what happened when you subcontract work out? You get a piece of the pie and you give a little bit to the other guy. So I would like to know, that is staff aware that Stitch Construction Company is the one who did the work?
Yes, I can answer that question. Good evening, Mayor Butt and members of the City Council. My name is Tawfiq Halabi. I'm a senior civil engineer in the Public Works Department. So yes, the city did engage with a company named Bayhawk to perform this work. Bayhawk had arranged for a specialist from Stitch to perform some of the demolition work. And there were several other elements of the work, including traffic control, procurement of the permit from the Air Quality Management District, site investigations, materials testing, and installation of a temporary wooden wall. So there were various elements of work that were performed either by Bayhawk or one of their subs. And the contract that the city is proposing to enter into is with a company called Bayhawk. And then in turn, Bayhawk will pay their subs for the specialty work that was performed during the demolition.
So what is their request for payment?
Are you asking the sum total amount?
That's what I'm asking for.
The sum total amount at this time is estimated at $94,000 for all of the work.
That seemed very strange. You put in not to exceed $100,000, so they come up $6,000 short. Had you put in $50,000, they probably made it $48,000. That doesn't sound good for a city doing business with almost a blanket contract and don't know who's doing the work. That's the only thing I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I
Other
just
questions?
think it's very shoddy work.
Martinez?
Yes, this brings to mind one of the major issues that we have with contracting without bidding. So we hire someone who's not capable of doing the job, and so they have someone else come in and do what they're not capable of doing. Why didn't we just go to Stitch, since they seem to be the ones who were able to do it?
Sure, I can answer that question. So this was initially considered an emergency contract, and I had asked around to city staff if they knew any firms locally that performed such work, and Bayhawk was recommended. And we have a track record of working with Bayhawk at various other points in time. And Stitch is also a Richmond business enterprise, just for your information. And a majority of the work was actually performed by Stitch, and we have that on record as well. So we did not have the luxury of putting together a proper scope of work. We had a structural engineer visit the site several times, and in the end, we just needed to move forward with the demolition because the front wall was actually falling onto the sidewalk. And we just had to move forward. Normally, when we conduct construction bids, we put together a scope of work and we advertise and we get competitive bids. That's our normal way of doing business. In this case, however, it really was in the interest of public safety that we had to move forward quickly. And we did so with some local contractors that we are actually familiar with.
So you're not familiar with Stitch?
Yes, actually, I am happen to be familiar with Stitch. I didn't know at the time that they performed demolitions. I have since, of course, learned that they performed demolitions.
Right, and so no one else on staff knew that they did demolitions, and they have nothing about demolition in their scope of work. I mean, you know, if we generally when a company does work, the kind of work that they do is well advertised. So you're saying that Stitch is remiss in advertising the work that they do. Is that true?
I can't verify that Stitch is remiss in advertising the work that they do. I can verify that myself as a city employee was not aware that they actually performed demolitions. We have hired Stitch to do many other types of work over the years.
And who recommended Bayhawk?
I had conversations with various staff members, facilities manager, former director of public works, and Bayhawk came out as the recommended firm.
By all the people or certain people in particular?
To the best of my recollection, everybody recommended Bayhawk as a reliable firm that could facilitate the demolition of this building.
And none of
So,
them recommended
council
Stitch.
member, if I might interject, I think it's important to remember the context in which we awarded this contract.
I realize the context.
Yeah.
I don't have to be reminded of that. I know what the context is, and that's why I'm asking these questions.
Mhm.
So in these conversations, no one mentioned Stitch as a possibility. Is that correct?
That's correct. At the time, Stitch was not mentioned.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I'd like to ask one other question. Are you familiar with Hammond Demolition Contractors?
No, I was not. I am now since you brought it up, but prior to our conversation, I was not.
They're Richmond based.
And another issue which is of importance, of these three companies that have been mentioned now, what is the ratio of people of color on staff for all three companies?
I actually don't know.
Okay, well, I think it's something that you should know. So okay, thank you.
Okay, so I had a couple of questions, and I'm looking at the ordinance about emergency procurement, and it authorizes the city manager to make or authorize others to make emergency procurements of supplies and services when there exists a threat to public health, welfare, or safety, provided that such emergency procurement shall be made with such competition as is practical under the circumstances. Now, going back and looking at the file, the city first became aware of this back in, looks like February. There's a letter here from ZFA Structural Engineers dated February 26, 2021. Basically recommending demolition, and then it went before the Historic Preservation Commission in March. So the city has known about this condition for months. And what we're asking to do tonight is to approve a contract after the fact. I mean, the building is demolished. It's gone. It's gone, and whoever did it presumably has either been paid or will be paid for it. But it doesn't sound to me like that it was such an emergency that it had to be done without city council approval. It also says the city council shall approve contracts in excess of $10,000. So I just wonder why didn't you come to the city council back in, say, February or March, and or let me put it another way, why didn't you put it out to bid in February or March? And you probably could have gotten bids in 30 days or something like that. Then you bring it to the city council, get it approved. Everything's on the up and up. Why didn't that happen?
So the intention in March was to move forward with the demolition. The Historic Preservation Commission put forth a requirement to produce a historic resources evaluation because the building was considered to be a historical building. So basically from the end of March to the beginning of maybe the mid-June, we put together a historic resources evaluation, took it back to the Historic Preservation Commission. Once we got the green light from the Historic Preservation Commission, we went back and visited the building. And at that point, the front parapet had continued to collapse, was leaning forward over the sidewalk. And it under the advice of the structural engineer, we need to just move forward immediately to remove the building. Otherwise, risk the actual collapse of the building.
Yeah, but you knew back in February you were going to have to demolish it. Why didn't you call for bids back then?
We had intended in February and in March, actually, to move forward with the demolition based on public safety.
My question is, why didn't you call for bids instead of waiting 3 months and then awarding a sole source contract on an emergency basis?
Right. Well, we had never intended to wait so long. It's the bureaucratic process that we had to go through. We just kept putting it off and putting it off until such time as it was an emergency.
Okay. Any other questions from council members?
When was the building finally demolished?
The end of June, the beginning of July.
Any other questions from council members? Any members of the public?
Yes, we do have a speaker.
Okay, let's call the speaker.
Okay, the speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. You can go ahead and start.
Hi, good evening, council members. So I was just sitting here listening and it just brought back deja vu. Bayhawk again. It was 1 year ago this month when there was a lot of talk about Bayhawk and W.R. Ford and all the stuff that they were being caught with Veolia, doing all of the contract work, which was hidden in a consent calendar item then too, under quote, makeup work, which was a whole disguised scheme to hide the fact that these companies had committed fraud against the Richmond taxpayers with Veolia in hiding work that was never done and was only caught with CCTV cameras. And at that time, I continued to ask and press this city for months on why Bayhawk was continuing to be a pre-qualified contractor for Veolia. And why again now are they involved in something that also doesn't seem to be on the up and up, putting out a sub, and somehow there definitely just doesn't seem something to be right here once again. So I'm gonna ask you guys to please explain to the public why Bayhawk continues to be a contractor that this city continues to do work with using taxpayer funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last speaker.
Yes.
Do we have a motion? I don't hear a motion. I guess with no motion, the item is not approved. Okay, let's move to.
Real quick, I need a point of clarification, then, if this item for some reason isn't approved, then what are the consequences, staff?
I guess our companies such as Stitch and Bayhawk won't get paid. I'm not sure.
Ask the city attorney.
Oh.
City attorney, you have an opinion on this?
Okay, I guess let me ask.
Council, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead. Council member.
Yeah, if this item isn't approved, then what happens? I guess I'm trying to get down to, did these people already do the work and now they're just waiting to get paid?
I'd like to understand that from Public Works staff. That is my understanding.
Yes, that is correct. The work has been performed and we are now bringing the formal contracts before council.
But the question he asked is if the council does not approve the contract, then what happens?
Well, go ahead.
The work has been done, and so we could end up in a dispute with the contractor about that.
Okay, well, considering that the work has already been done, it's redundant. I don't see a point in us getting caught up in any other issues. However, due to the concerns that were brought up tonight, if there are any current or future projects that do come up regarding this particular company, maybe it should bring up discussions considering their credibility is being called into question as to whether or not they're actually performing or subcontracting. But with all that being said, I'll just make a motion to approve this item due to the fact that work was already done and we have an obligation to pay out for work done.
And just for clarification, with that motion, you are also asking that future contracts with Bayhawk be under heightened scrutiny, correct?
Yeah. We'll add that in.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
I had a question. Was the
go ahead before we
contract?
vote.
I had a question. Did the contract allow Bayhawk to subcontract the work out? It seems to me if a person bid on a project, that's their total responsibility. And I don't see how they can subcontract it out and not do the work that they promised to do.
California Public Contracting Code allows for subcontracting. It's a common practice. We hire contractors and then contractors usually have specialty subcontractors for various licensing reasons and so forth.
Okay.
I had another question. I'm looking at the packet and I see a form of contract with Bayhawk, but it's not executed. Was that contract ever executed?
No, we're seeking approval from council tonight to execute the contract.
Well, they just did all this work on a verbal authorization, right?
That's correct. We've worked with these companies many times over the course of many years.
Okay, let's vote on this, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bates?
No.
Councilmember Jimenez?
No.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez? Councilmember Martinez, your vote?
No.
Councilmember McLaughlin? Councilmember McLaughlin?
Sorry, I was muted. Abstain.
Councilmember Willis?
Yes.
And Mayor Butt?
No.
The motion fails with Vice Mayor Johnson and Councilmember Willis voting yes and Councilmember McLaughlin abstaining.
Okay, I believe that brings us to item J, reports of officers. Are there any? Anybody have a report? Councilmember Jimenez?
I don't know if this is report, but I just wanted to just say thank you to everybody who works really hard on passing to making the Bay Area Air Quality Management District to vote 19-3 to require the refineries in Contra Costa County to have a better systems to reduce emissions in our city and in the county and the air. So I just wanted to say a special thank you to Andres Soto from the Communities for Better Environment, who has been working really hard on this. Thank you. And also Supervisor John Joya, who was one of the person who pushed this really hard. And this is a win-win for all our communities and especially for our young folks to have clean air in our city. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Is that your hand up, Councilmember Martinez?
I have a request too, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go, Councilmember Bates, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like,
Councilmember Bates.
yeah, I appreciate, Mr. Mayor, if you would close the meeting in honor of Mr. Richard Shoemake, who was a lifetime Richmond resident. And he's a brother of Reverend Andre Shoemake. He passed away several days ago, and they've had the funeral already. But I indicated I would ask that we close the meeting in respect and honor of his lifetime residency in the city of Richmond. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I had the same memorial for Mr. Richard Shoemake, who died at the age of 94, and I had the pleasure of attending Howard University with both of his grandsons, and his funeral was on Tuesday. And as Councilmember Bates put it, great man, great contribution to the city of Richmond.
Somebody else have one? I have one for Phyllis Gould. Phyllis died on July 20th, 2021. And she was a Rosie. She passed away at the age of 99. And she was very active in Rosie the River, World War II Homefront National Historic Park activities right up until the end. So I'm sure all of you met her at one time or another. Anything else?
I hope that we can see each other next Tuesday, July 27 in our city council meeting, and it doesn't get canceled. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank goodness this meeting is over. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night, everyone.
This hereby adjourned.
Good night.
Good night.